Hooker going deep. Man's there. Got it. Jalen Hyatt, touchdown.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
He lets it rip, and Mingo's behind the defense. Goodbye, Jonathan Mingo. Touchdown, Rebels. 71 yards.
365 Sports is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
We love fullbacks, and we rarely see fullbacks show up on depth charts anywhere around the country. Play action. Nifty handwork that time by Stanley. Looking for his tight end. Laporta grabs a ditch dive. Sam Laporta tripped up short of midfield, and big number 84 rumbles for a first down.
365 Sports is also brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, protecting Texans since 1952.
Levis over the middle, wide open Brown, angling across the 40. That's a foot race to the end zone. Barry on Brown, touchdown, Kentucky.
Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube. Brought to you by TFNB, your bank for life.
Rattler with time. Underthrown and intercepted by the Wildcats. Julius Prince, the Iowa transfer.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go, 365 Sports on this Wednesday. And a couple of notes today, an interesting nugget on Oklahoma State football, their schedule, and also an interesting nugget about 3 or 4. What the hell's going on here, Emery? Oh, it is, thank you, Emery. It is Paul Catalina's birthday. We've kind of iced him out since he arrived here just a few minutes ago. He is 40-something, but I went ahead and put the official 40. Is that what it is?
Yes, I'm 43.
43. What's the best, Greg, any thoughts about the best jersey number, Garrett, in sports history at 43? It's not one of those that has a lot. I know one. I think Washington running back Larry Brown, who was an MVP one year back in the 70s with the over-the-hill gang, George Allen. He was 43. I don't know of many others.
I looked this up today. It was almost the top 5. But I think it's Troy Polamalu.
Okay. Well, if he was 43, then that's absolutely that's who it would be.
All right, so I won't set a fire on this.
No. Let it burn a little bit.
Okay.
It's big candles. I brought the cake, and then I realized I did not have the candles. So Paul Catalina is 43 years old.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Happy birthday, Paul.
Yeah.
Yeah, happy birthday.
One of the best things that Paul used to have was hair. It's starting to decline a little bit. So I went to the store, and I got some Rogaine. And
thank you.
I thought that would.
I'll go get on that right now.
I thought that would.
Wait till what it gets you here in about a month.
Well, I'd have to spray the whole bottle on every inch of my head. I'm joking with you about that. You've got hair that most people wish they had. So happy birthday, Paul.
No, thank you.
40. I knew you back when you were an ankle biter.
Yeah, when I was 30, actually, I think is when you met me. Here's the deal. When you met me, I was wrestling with the fact that I was no longer in my 20s. Now I'm long past that and wrestling with the fact that I'm well past my 30s. By the way, Rogaine, I fully, wholly endorse you here.
Yeah, there you go.
Well,
if you want to send us some money on our YouTube channel, we would appreciate that. So we have the chat rooms already going. People wishing Paul a happy birthday. We appreciate that. Scotty B with a little note. Jaden Owens of Baylor has entered the transfer portal. The guard who was at UCLA, came to Baylor, was there for a pretty good chunk. She's entered the transfer portal. But Big Jack 512, Paul's just a baby. Daniel Acton, happy birthday. And others. Phil Venzer, cake, where is the Jack Daniels? We don't have that. Sam said, Paul, your hairline is immaculate.
Here, it's great.
Happy birthday from Opie.
Here is fantastic.
Have you lost a little?
Here, right up here. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it is.
Aaron
it's
Wilson,
easier to
happy
manage.
birthday. Well, no.
Better off than a lot of people at 43, though, as far as that goes.
No, I mean, I'm telling you, I'm not one to be talking about the hairline or whatever is left on the top of my noggin.
Can we go back to the Jaden Owens thing?
Yeah,
Garrett, you
sure.
got any thoughts on that as somebody who covers the Lady Bears, Baylor women's basketball? And Lady Bears just sounded cooler. I know it's not
Lady Bears.
I
This
know
should
it's not like the politically correct thing to say. They are the Lady Bears, dude, and that just sounded so much better. But I understand we can't say that in today's world. But
Well, you can. It's just it'll be correct.
it's just silly, though. It really is. But I understand people have their different feelings on it. I'll respect that. It's Baylor women's basketball. They officially changed the name. Do you have thoughts on Jaden Owens? Because we've been talking about what all they thought they were going to have back. But
Yeah, I mean, this is something that was kind of, you heard, trickling down with the transfers coming in. I think being able to get – I think she was probably looking at the rotation and seeing that her lack of scoring was something that might be, coming to head. Wish her the best of luck. You were looking at possibly a 5-person rotation. Now you're down to 4. Do you make any other moves in the portal? But, she will be missed. But she left it all on the court here for 2 years.
All right, good. Thank you, Garrett. Thank you for popping that up. All the way, Dennis Eckersley was 43. Somebody in the chat room mentioned, don't forget Darren Sproles. He wore 43, a more recent number. And so, there, Paul, you have about 25 seconds to blow those out. Yeah, because they're starting to melt. Oh, dear God. You almost pushed the paper up on the cake. Oh,
There we go.
God, I hope you didn't have a wish because it didn't happen after it took 4 of them. All right, 43 years old, young Paul Catalina. So 43, I couldn't think of anybody other than Larry Brown, the former Washington running back. So Oklahoma State, I guess if we went over this back when the schedule was released for 2023 in the Big 12, maybe we did. Correct me if I'm wrong. But I was reading Barry Trammell in the Oklahoman. He has these scissor tails. And Oklahoma State football schedule is even weaker than Oklahoma's. He made this point. They play 6 teams this year who were not in the Power 5 conference a year ago. Central Arkansas, South Alabama, Cincinnati, Brigham Young, Central Florida, and Houston. I'm like, wait a minute, they're not playing all 4. They're not going to play Tech, Baylor, TCU, or Texas in this season. Did we ever go over that back when the schedule was released, that specific nugget about Oklahoma State?
I don't know if we did or not. I don't recall going over everybody one by one, so we might have just glossed over that. It's kind of hard on signing day to figure out, every piece of the puzzle with 14 teams without having like that monster graphic that's got everything listed and going over it one by one. We just kind of glossed over and hit on certain subjects. So, no, I don't think that was one of them, but that is notable. That would give me more reason to believe in them being a better team than anything else. Would be the ease of schedule, all due respect to the others. But, when you're not playing basically all of the main contenders from the last who'd you say, Texas, Oklahoma, Baylor?
And Tech.
That's probably the top 2 contenders in the conference next year. That's the other 2 that have won it as much as anybody. So that's quite the layup as far as what you were given on the schedule to try and take advantage of. Whether they can or not's the question. And I think there's plenty of reasons to believe that they can take advantage, and then plenty of reasons to believe that this could get real sideways if certain things don't work out. But yeah, that's notable, obviously, and that does give you a bit of a better feeling about where they might be headed.
Look, okay, so if you go through their schedule, okay, they open up with Central Arkansas. And then they play at Arizona State and Tempe, which I hope we see more games like that. But at least for Oklahoma State's perspective, this is, what's going to be Kenny Dillingham's second game there. So if I'm going to play Arizona State under Kenny Dillingham, especially, we talked about him yesterday. We all think he's probably going to do a really good job there. But I'd want to get him early as opposed to when they've got their sea legs there in Tempe. South Alabama at Iowa State didn't make a bowl game last year. Then Kansas State, the defending conference champions. Kansas at West Virginia, whose coach is on the hot seat. Cincinnati, new to the conference and a new coach. Bedlam, which will be Bedlam. That's what it's going to be.
Like Texas, Houston, Bedlam had to happen. That was one of the games. There's no way you're not going to let that be a part of the last year.
Yeah, so their stretch is tougher down the backside of the season when you go, Cincinnati, Oklahoma, at UCF, at Houston, BYU. But again, the last 3 games are against 3 new teams in the conference.
And nothing against them because we don't know. By the way, Oklahoma State, Arizona State have played just 4 times. They did play last year. Oklahoma State winning 34-17. Their series started way back, I think, in the mid-'80s. Might have been. Now, maybe by then, Arizona State was a part of a conference, the WAC, back in the 70s. Of course, at one point, I believe they were independent.
Okay, I misunderstood, and you misunderstood what I responded with. I asked if I asked if Oklahoma was in that group, but no, they're not. They do play Oklahoma. I thought they did, but the way you said it, I misunderstood. So TCU is who you're talking about, who they don't play.
They don't play the 3.
Baylor, Texas, and
Texas Tech. Those are the 4. They don't play those 4. I didn't realize that when the schedule was released, when it finally was.
And they closed the end of the season with 4 of the 5 new teams.
Yeah.
And then Oklahoma in there.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I don't know how that algorithm spit out that, but that's interesting to be sure. And then even, West Virginia was an expansion candidate prior. That's 5 of their last 6 are against the newer Big 12 schools.
And TCU's new, if you think about it, about 10 years ago because of when they
But they don't play them. I'm talking about 5 of their last 6 is against teams that are relatively new or brand new to the conference, and TCU not being one of those. But, West Virginia and then all of the new 4 and then Oklahoma sandwiched in there. So.
Only Oklahoma among those teams was a part of the original Big 12 back in 1996.
And they're leaving.
And they're leaving.
Yeah.
All right. How about UCF? I spoke with media relations. This is a great deal for them. As of yesterday, or actually earlier today, their AD announced that they are 400, and that's 15, not 75, 415 seats, season tickets remaining for a full sellout. Now, 26,600 are season tickets only. 12,000 are student allocation, and that's about, 1/4 or so of their population or enrollment. And then 2,500 allocated for the visiting teams. And, of course, if the visiting teams can't get to that number, then they release it back to the team that's hosting the game. So speaking with UCF, they did sell out last year, but it wasn't until August. They sold out in 19, but they've sold out. So it's not like the Big 12 is leading to them being a sellout, season ticket sellout, but it's a lot earlier, 4 months or so earlier, and in some cases even earlier than that, of when they've been a sellout before. I think last year they said 2022, the sellout was sometime in August. So there's that. We'll have their AD on the show perhaps tomorrow or Friday to just discuss what a lot of this surge as they hit close to when it's officially official. They are in the conference, of course, and that first season in the Big 12.
Well, and they're already good too. So this is a good intersection for them. They're not entering the conference with, well, at least we're in there. It's going to be, and look, it might not be what the most optimistic fans think, and it might not be what the most pessimistic fans think at the beginning. But look, they're of the incoming teams, they're the one that I think is the best set to do well because they've got a really good quarterback returning, and they've got they're one of the teams with a returning coach who's kind of been there and done that. So that's all good for UCF. So I'm not surprised that they're that close, given that they're about to be a Power 5 school for the first time in their history, and they're coming off a really good season.
From Oakley, Burklow. I don't know if we've ever had Oakley on it. If you have, I apologize, but welcome. As an Oklahoma State fan, feels weird not to be playing more Texas teams this year. And eventually, it depends on what happens when the conference goes to 12, of how often that change rotation will be a part of their schedule from year to year.
I would be worried about getting lost in the shuffle of whatever kind of regionality they're going to set up. I would think you'd want to be with the Texas schools, and that would make the most sense, but it depends on how they do it.
Well, because they're recruiting base, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's proximity, it's recruiting base, it's their history, it's where they've gotten the majority of their best players over time outside of just the state of Oklahoma. Not all of them, but a majority of them. Whether it's Des Bryant to Spencer Sanders and a lot of folks in between, Kendall Hunters, and all sorts of guys. They can recruit elsewhere, but I don't think they're trying to close down the Texas pipeline. So if I was them, I'd be hoping that, however that setup is, that algorithm, it spits out that you're going to home and away with Lubbock and home and away in Waco and home and away in Fort Worth and Houston, and that'd probably be the most ideal. But for all we know, they could be more situated with Cincinnati or BYU, because somebody's got to be in that. But it all depends on how they do it. We don't even know that just yet, how that will be set up. But that's going to be really interesting post Oklahoma and Texas to see what the Big 12 decides to do about maintaining certain regional rivalries and proximities.
All right, let's see here. Oklahoma State lost the coin flip, but they'll probably win 8 games now because of the schedule. Also, Static Fur, I'm still pissed that West Virginia isn't playing Texas and Morgantown this year. Mr. Guy, Oklahoma State, the dark horse. With all of that to win the conference. Again, what we know about Gundy is his teams are pretty consistent. Last year they got kind of dinged up in the attrition and whatever else was going on. Big roster change, but they're not the only ones. So there we are with some of the responses as well on what I just mentioned. Now, this is about Baylor acrobatic and tumbling. Now, you may go, what? They've won numerous national titles. Felicia Mulkey, who won national titles when she was at Oregon. I bring this up because pretty upsetting story that someone who was going to commit to Baylor or had committed to Baylor to come to Baylor to be a part of their national championship acrobatic and tumbling team, Peyton Washington, was a part of a car that had somebody shoot into it. Apparently, this is like a 320-mile or so trip that girls would go on from Round Rock. They're a part of an elite cheerleading or a dance team, They would go from Round Rock into Conroe and come back. And as they were leaving the facility, one of the girls got into the wrong car. Saw somebody in the car, got nervous, thought it was their car. She backed out of it. She then went to their car. The person that was in the other car allegedly got out and started shooting up the car. And Washington has been in critical condition. This is from Felicia Mulkey. Peyton is a strong young lady. If you know her, you know that about her. I have no doubt she's going to get through this. An amazing athlete, but a better human, and that's why she's part of our family. My prayers are with Peyton and her teammates that were involved in Monday night's tragic event. I know mental wounds also leave scars. We want to lift up the athletes, their families during this difficult time. We know Peyton and wish her well as she recovers. Also, Mulkey said she visited her, Peyton Washington, in the hospital. She looks great, all things considered, making good progress, even in a short period of time, seemed to be doing well, but there is a long, long way to go. The shooter has been apprehended, again, arrested after 2 elite cheerleaders at the Woodlands facility in Conroe were shot outside of HEB near an Austin area where they lived in Round Rock. So tough, brutal story on that.
Yeah, I'm glad she's all right. I'm glad everybody involved, for the most part, is all right. That's going to be jarring to go open a car door probably for the next several years, I would think, for her. Some PTSD probably comes along with that. I'm glad that they arrested the trigger-happy moron with the gun who doesn't need to be on the streets, and glad that he'll be facing at least a few years in jail, given was it third-degree felony or whatever it was he was charged with. Good, lock him away for a while. I get that you're probably getting spooked. Somebody just opens up your car door. I can understand that, but to start firing at some cheerleaders is just, I don't know, man. That's being a bit on edge. So he got what's coming to him, or will, and hopefully they get some therapy and some just healing and can go about their lives in as normal a way as possible. But I'm sure it's going to be hard for a little while after experiencing something like that. That's not one of those things that you just, it's just life. It's just things happen. No, that's a little bit out of the ordinary, and especially when you're then, rushed to the hospital and fighting for your life. So glad she's okay and keep fighting. Yeah,
and a lot of guys on the chat, women and men on the chat room, from thuggery, shoot first mentality. I'm sure if you're in a car and somebody in this day and age, and you're in the car and somebody walks in the car, maybe you react almost then, and then you kind of, wait, this is a cheerleader, everything's, then to get back out and then approach the car and then start shooting, that's just, again, we weren't there, we don't know all of the facts, but that just seems to be, no, you can't even explain the overreaction to that. Now, I said this even the last couple of days. I love back in the day, and Jeff Traylor's going to join us in 5 minutes. Well, I'm going to tease this, and we'll have it later in the show. I always loved when the Dallas Morning News back in the day, there was no internet, and then eventually there was, but it was still a great piece that 4 to 5 years after each National Signing Day, they would look back on who hit and who did not. Among their top, let's say Dallas Morning News had their top 100, whatever it was in the Dallas and Fort Worth area, and it might have been more than that. And you could see where those that, when they were ranked top 10 rated recruiting classes, that's great. You celebrate, you get all the attention. But rarely does anyone ever go back and go, well, that top 10 rated or top 20 rated class, absolutely bottomed out. And we've seen schools, two of them probably, Auburn and Texas have might been the most guilty of not reaching the star level potential based on the various websites. But Stanford has the best percentage of the number of the 5-star recruits who hit in the NFL. Now, not hit in the NFL, were drafted. This is from 2009 to 2019, drafted between 2012 and 22. Among those who had 5 stars, Stanford, highest percentage, Clemson, A&M, Miami, Alabama had a massive amount, 44, 30 of them were drafted. Florida, Penn State, Ohio State, Georgia, and Florida State. You hear a lot of the Blue Bloods, or you hear a lot of them on the edge, but Stanford had 6 5-stars. The other ones, like Miami, had just 5. Penn State had 6. But they had the highest percentage of 5-star players they signed who actually were then drafted, no matter first round, 7th round, or whatever else.
Yeah, Stanford is just a good place to go for development anyway, in almost anything, because if you're elite when you're going in, you're more than likely going to be elite on the way out, just because of the way that the entire institution works, right? Because you are, like, there's not, like, and I'm sure there are some of these stories where I barely got into Stanford, but you're either pretty much getting in or you're not, and it's more of a numbers game on how many people are there. You're qualified to go there, you're not. And then with the student athletes, when you got 5-star guys going there, like, they are qualified, they're already kind of working at an elite level. So that doesn't surprise me that, you know, and look, the 6th guy might have torn both his ACLs.
Yeah.
Or he might have been there too. So I read the story about Ari Washman. I thought was really interesting. And I guess David Ubben was involved too.
David Ubben, Mitch Light, yeah.
Yeah, but it was really fascinating to see that about who's developing guys. And yeah, it has been Texas's kind of knock that they haven't been, although it looks like maybe that worm is starting to turn and guys are going to be hopping in the NFL finally from Austin.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't get to read the whole piece, but it mentions in the article that the Big 12's lack of producing NFL talent is directly correlated to Oklahoma and Texas, or specifically Texas, and I think they mentioned Oklahoma as well, but them not developing on the same level of other programs that are carrying similar weights. I think Texas would admit that they haven't panned out nearly as often as they should have, given the amount of number 1, number 2, top 5 in general classes that they've had. I mean, there's been maybe a couple in the last decade that weren't top 5. Maybe there's more than that I'm not realizing. But for the most part, they're looking at somewhere 1 through 5, if not 1 through 3. And so to have a bit of a drought to where we are now, where it's like, oh, Bijan Robinson is going to possibly go top 10, and that's the first time in how long? It's been a while. That's surprising. And then you look at the results, and it's not so surprising. So, yeah, when there's these graphics about the Big 12 and the NFL draft, part of the reason they're lagging behind is because, yeah, they're not getting a couple Longhorns in the first round every year like they probably should have been getting. Or, I can't really say that about Oklahoma. They've produced. I mean, they've put a lot of guys out in the draft and a lot of first-rounders out there as well. So, yeah, that's an area where I think that, you hope Sark has now hit a point in recruiting where Bijan kind of gets that ball rolling again, and then, it becomes habit every year where you've got a guy that's in that discussion for top 15 or first-round status, if not a couple guys every year, like the teams you're about to start playing year in and year out. And I'm sure that will probably, coincide with one another. I think you'll see probably Oklahoma and Texas with some better draft numbers, just purely as a result of the need to develop better than they in particular in Texas' case, have been doing.
During those 10 years, Texas had 17 5-stars, which of course is a nice number. Bama has had 44, Florida 18, Ohio State 23, Georgia 34, Florida State 27. Those teams I mentioned, other than Texas, were among the best. And again, the percentage is still very low that hit after being 5-stars that were drafted. Texas, 17 5-stars, 4 drafted, Oklahoma 12, and only 3 of those actually were drafted into the NFL. But also on that list that has not been able to cultivate, Auburn, Tennessee, Notre Dame, UCLA, Ole Miss, LSU, Oregon, and USC. All right, we're now joined by UTSA football coach and great friend of ours, Jeff Traylor, on 365 Sports. Hey, Jeff, let me ask you this. You've coached at Texas. You've been at Arkansas, SMU, and now you're the head coach at UTSA. Did you guys, when you were recruiting, I've always wondered this, do you guys ever look at the numbers, the stars, or anything like that when you're in the middle of it?
I know a lot of people do. I personally never do, like ever. But when you're at Texas or Arkansas, you're expected to get certain stars. So recruiting departments are getting asked about it. Head coaches are getting asked about it because media is driving that. And I've always really believed in my evaluations and my development. And I've always used the same thing, David. Talk to me in 4 years and let me know how we did. And I'm very convicted about that because I do believe the development phase is the one part that doesn't get talked about enough. Evaluation's important. Recruiting's important. The most important piece is what you do with that kid once you get him on your campus for the next 5 years.
And, Coach, isn't that also probably one of the only things that is not affected by outside forces that's directly in your breadbasket to work on and to help mold? And it's not, NIL or it's not recruiting offers. It's just having a guy and getting him better as a person, as a player. Does that bring some extra pride with that element as well?
Well, it's more who I am as a human. I just can't speak for other people. Just as a human, I want to. I didn't win all these games in my life by being smarter than everybody else. There's some gift that the Lord gave me to be able to spot talent and develop it. That comes in coaches and in players, and that's been my strength. I mean, you can look at our video, and we run an odd front, and we run a multiple front offense, and we kick the ball the same. I mean, there's a lot of that stuff is very, very much alike. But man, when my players are better than the other guys' players, I seem to win a lot more of those games.
Coach, is there anything what's the feeling when you have maybe discovered a kid who's been under recruited, and is it like finding a winning lottery ticket? What is that like?
I'll never look at it again. I just don't. I think the Lord made every kid uniquely different. My job as a football coach is to make every one of those kids the very, very, very best that human being can be. I mean, I know I'm old school as heck, and everybody gets tired of hearing my boring answers all the time. But I mean, John Wooden said it best back in the '60s. Like, what is peace of mind? Peace of mind is when you've done your absolute. Or I'm sorry, let me rephrase that. What is success? Success is a peace of mind when you've done your absolute very best, and that's what we want to do when every kid leaves here. Even our guys that jump in the portal and they want to go play somewhere else, so they can't play here, whatever that might look like. I would hope every one of those kids that leave me, they leave in a positive connotation where we're still trying to help them get to other schools where they know we were just trying to make them the very best they can be. And I know there's still parents out there. There's always those people that are unhappy with the head coach and what they're trying to do. But that's really been my mission since 33 years ago.
Jeff, speaking of the portal, I know you've been outspoken about tampering. I know that you've had people trying to raid and have perhaps done that. Is that still as much of a problem now? Is it worse? Is it better? And then also, if that's the case, have you and others who are getting hit worse ever thought about just calling out the names, or is that a deadly thing to do?
I won't do it publicly. I do it privately.
Okay.
I mean, I speak to these coaches on the phone that we are friends, believe it or not. They're shocked that my players come to me and tell me, and I just keep it there. And so far, everybody's been respectful of that. I've not lost one of those players yet. But I am very clear to everyone. I'm not afraid to make it public at all. I just hope we can keep this private, and let's just keep it where it is.
Did anyone ever come after Frank Harris even after he recommitted to coming back?
No, sir. Not that I'm aware of, but it wouldn't have mattered. Frank is like the rest of my guys. I've got a couple of them I worry about, but most of my guys are so doggone loyal. They just walk in the office, they screenshot it, they let me see it. I call the coach, let them know that I know, and it all goes away. Now it's those other couple that I hope I can hang on to these next 9 days.
Look, if you could convince Frank Harris to leave the city of San Antonio, you are one heck of a salesman. I'll just tell you that right now. And that guy is, I mean, his very DNA is tied in with the city. But Coach, you starting with Frank Harris and then most up and down your roster, as you this year transitioned into a league, you're a very veteran team. What is it like in a spring when you have a team that's juniors and seniors and redshirt sophomores, guys who know your system, compared to one that is a team that's a little less experienced?
16 of them didn't take a snap this spring just because of injuries. They played so long for me. I mean, what are we doing? I mean, so 16 of them helped me coach this spring. The 17 kids that I brought in, we worked the heck out of them. My younger guys that have been here that haven't got to play very much. But, you know, Frank and those receivers and a couple of my linemen, a few of my D linemen, Rashad Wisdom, my punter. I mean, those guys didn't take a snap of spring ball. We were smart with those kids. They've had the same verbiage, the same offense, the same defense, the same special teams going on 4 seasons, and they've all started for 3 straight years. I mean, who are we tricking? Those guys didn't need to go through much spring ball when they're not very healthy right now.
So, Coach, what's kind of your mantra when it does come to spring ball? What sort of a level of importance do you put on it? I know we have like these gussied up spring games and all those types of things, but what level of importance does it hold, and what was kind of the theme for the Roadrunners this time around?
It was extremely important. I think each team is different. I think it depends on what your team is, right? I mean, we've got 9 kids back on offense that have been starting for us for 3 years going on 4. So how many reps those guys really need? So the ones that were healthy and could go, they only got like 1 rack. When I mean a rack, I mean like a 4 or 5 play series. Then we come back later on to practice. They get 1 more rack, and then we come back later on to practice. So my guys never, ever went more than 1 rack. Where as long as my life of doing this, they've always gone at least 2 racks each series. Now, my 2s and my 3s went ahead and got 2 racks because those guys needed the reps. But my 1s that have been playing all this time, we didn't. We just took it. We just got them a little bit of work. We've also got OTAs this summer, man, and then we've got fall camp. I mean, so come on. I mean, we play football year round, and because I've been so blessed to keep the same verbiage in every system since I've been here, which is what the beauty of promoting within is. My kids haven't had to learn anything new.
All right. Is that word rack something that's been around football lingo for a long time, or is that something you made up?
I would imagine I've never had one creative thought in my entire mind, David. I've stolen every great idea I've ever had from someone. So I would imagine I stole that from somebody. I don't know who.
All right, so you're entering the American Conference officially on July the 1st. Obviously, your schedule includes that, and everyone knows it's happening, just like those who from the American who are coming to the Big 12, including BYU. What does all that mean? Is it just you're in a different conference? Is there a lot of having to study? How do you go about that transition?
Well, we're going to have a really good football team. I don't know what our record will be because the schedule's just so much harder. We've only been playing football for 12 seasons. We've competed in 11, where you're going against East Carolina, Temple, Tulane, South Florida, guys that obviously SMU, Memphis. They've been playing football for 100 years, and facility-wise, budget-wise, recruiting-wise, just all those things. We've conquered the Conference USA. That's factual. It's not just me, no coach talk there, but we're stepping up to another level now. And we're excited about it, but the teams that are going with us, UAB, well, they've beaten us before. FAU's going. Well, guess what? They've beaten us before. North Texas is going with us. Well, they've beaten us before. So it's not like the teams that are going with us. The ones we left behind were the ones we were dusting off. So we've got a really tough schedule in front of us. Not to mention you got Big 12 Houston. You've got Tennessee from the SEC, Texas State, and Army for our non-conference games.
By the way, you picked Tennessee just in time for them to be really, really good, didn't you?
Yeah, you couldn't have made that any better, right? That's the beauty of when you try to get one of those Power 5 guys. You hope you get one of them on the down cycle, not on the up cycle.
Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, David Smoak, 365 Sports with UTSA football coach Jeff Traylor.
Coach, how are your birds and how's the white couch? We have to get an update every time.
Well, the birds they've gone by the way of the white buffalo because we got, Izzy now who only weighs 10 pounds. And so when I'm feeding the birds, we got coyotes and, foxes jumping the fence trying to eat the bird feed. And they would have eaten Izzy for like a little midnight snack. So we had to let the birds go. They're gone. The white couch, we had some, Jordan got married last weekend and we had the rehearsal dinner at our house and it was raining that night. So a lot of mud got trapped in the house on the white carpet going to the bathroom and a little splatter on the white couch. So lot of cleaning up going right now at the old trailer house right now. So, yeah, not a good subject.
Well, congratulations on the family edition.
Yeah, and he actually married a girl from Bernie, which is crazy. He met her when we were at Arkansas. So it's been crazy. You know, Jordan coaches for the Saints, and Sierra works there in New Orleans as well. But, yeah, married a Bernie girl. So we're just all one big happy family here in San Antonio with a messy white couch and some stained carpet.
The Bernie Greyhounds, silver and blue, I think, or one of those two colors. So the white couch, who's going to clean it?
I'm sure Care Bear's got, some highfalutin system here in San Antonio coming to the house that I'm not aware of right now.
Why did you have to say highfalutin?
That's code for it's going to cost.
Yeah, it's going to cost.
It's not just a bottle of spray and elbow grease.
Right. It's not the Gilmer cleaners. I can promise you that. I saw my buddies from the field house coming in there squirting some type of Windex on the couch, and us just wipe her off and call them the day.
Oh, my God. That's going to get back there to quickly. Jeff, UTSA has stepped up. They've stepped up to sign that contract with you. They've stepped up to do others. It's an incredibly passionate fan base in San Antonio that you've ignited. My question to you is there still much more that needs to be done? Because it's all about the arms race. Some schools are ahead of the curve. Is UTSA in position to be a part of the arms race?
We're getting there. It's a progress. We've made tremendous strides on. Dr. Compost and President Amy had a 10-year plan when I took the job. And like I've told them, all the winning and the success is just expedited the 10-year plan. And I need the 10-year plan to be a 3-year plan now. And we're still on a 10-year plan. And they're doing their due diligence, and we're moving towards that goal. But we just got to stay. We got to stay in the race, so we can keep knocking off some of those goals that we've got targeted. But yeah, we've got facilities now. Our staff is getting there. There's a few things we've got to address there. The nutrition piece we've addressed, academics. There's so many things we've knocked off. We've only been playing ball for 12 seasons, and I'm not making excuses for me or our administration, but when you go from that USA to AAC, it's the same stuff. Cincinnati, Houston, those guys will be dealing with going to the Big 12.
Coach, going back to that non-conference schedule that you'll be facing, that's just really it's impressive to look at, and you guys will certainly know a lot about yourselves with these 4 teams. But you mentioned at Houston, who will be opening up as Big 12 team for the first time. Army, which we know everybody who puts them on the schedule, that's always a problematic team to prepare for and play. And then at Tennessee, as they're hitting on all cylinders. But that Texas State game has a little extra sauce on it with G.J. Kinney now being the head coach there. You obviously know him quite well. What's it been like to see his rise in coaching, and what will it be like, you think, to be on the opposite sidelines?
I'm thrilled for G.J. I mean, I've said that forever, how much I love the kid. I think he's gifted. He is an unbelievable – the only player I've ever coached like him when it comes to being able to relate with people is Josh McCowan. They can just – people just love him. They love people. They're good with people. He'll do great there. And I know you're not supposed to say that about people you play against, but he's just a really great kid. As far as what it'll be like that week, I don't like those kind of weeks. I don't. Now when that 3.5 hours is going down, we'll be getting after each other like nobody's business. But you never like that. I don't personally. I don't know about everybody else, but I'd rather not have to play against somebody I love like GJ.
Jeff, you and I talked the last time we did. You were on your way back home. Your father had passed away, and because of things, you had to wait for the funeral. Can you try to explain to me the role he had in your life?
Yeah. He was a larger-than-life personality. Didn't really care about sports. He was a double music major. Educator. We were raised on a farm. Me and my brother Kurt and Andy, we were nothing but free labor for him for a long, long time with a lot of cattle. Raised very, moderate lifestyle. Love the Lord, love to sing. Love to tell jokes. So, yeah, that was a big loss for me. There's no doubt that was tough when you start getting to our age, day where you'll start losing those parents. But my mom got to come down for the wedding. That's the first time she'd been to San Antonio because my dad got sick when I got the job. And my dad never got to see me coach in person in college. That'll be something that always bothers me. But I know he's got the best seat in the house. But my mom got to come down for the wedding. and stay in San Antonio for 2.5 weeks. And we just got her back to East Texas yesterday. So that's been strange. But you would have loved my dad, and you might have met him before, Dave. I don't really remember, but he had a larger-than-life personality. He just loved people, man. Loved the Lord and loved people.
When you told him you were going to get into coaching back in the day, did he say, like, oh, my God, no? Or was he all for it? What was the initial reaction?
No, both my parents did not want me to do it. They wanted me to be a lawyer. They thought I could argue very well, and they thought I was really smart. So anyway, that didn't go well. And both my parents were educators, and they loved educating the students. They didn't like the bureaucracy of public education and didn't want me to get all up in that. And now that I look back at it, my mom was the best teacher in the school for 40 years, and she made the same amount of money that the worst teacher made in the school. And that's always kind of bothered me, which is why I'm such an advocate for the free enterprise system. I love what I get to do because my work is on the field on Saturday. And if I do well, I get rewarded. If I don't, I get punished. And that's the way it should be. Man, we love you. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate your time. Look forward to seeing how you do. And I know that you'll have them absolutely prepared, focused for what you have coming up. Jeff Traylor, we appreciate your time. Have a great spring and summer. You're the best, David. God bless. Birds up. Birds up. Jeff Traylor, UTSA football coach with us. The white couch got dirty. So that's I did not my espionage, his brother, Kurt, did not fill me in on that. So he did mention, obviously, Jeff Traylor's mentioned it before. We've read stories about it where he's very angry about the transfer portal and how people have tried to raid his roster.
I mean, like, and part of that is just like, look, I get that you have this transfer portal available to you, but there's ethics that should be involved in things, and if you don't have those, and you don't have those,
football ethics,
but okay. But yeah, I mean, somebody's got to fight for it, though.
I know you're right.
Yeah, somebody's got to fight for it, and somebody has to sit there and say, like, hey, look, this is wrong, because if you don't, like, oh, well, that's just the system, it's like the dry cleaners. Sometimes you lose something, sometimes you get something. Well, that's not right. Look, if I give my coat to the dry cleaners, I should get my coat back from the dry cleaners. Or if they lose it, then they need to make restitution for it. It's not like the transfer portal is like, well, sometimes I'm going to get something out of the transfer portal, sometimes going to lose something. That's true, but if I lose something and it's against the rules, then something needs to be said. Well, we asked that question, did we not, Craig, when we brought up the story and mentioned, well, why doesn't he just publicly mention the schools? Well, he made it very clear he's done it personally, and then if they continue to do it, then he'll probably then go public.
Yeah, well, I guess it'll take somebody to actually, call him on that, and I don't doubt for a second that he'll do it. So I doubt that anybody's going to be willing to do that themselves. And I like that somebody is willing to say what they feel on the matter, even if people don't necessarily agree with their point of view. I think the thing to be mindful of is that he's not saying he doesn't believe in NIL or that guys shouldn't get money or that anything like that. He's saying, like, if a guy's on my roster, then leave him alone.
Yeah.
That's all he's saying. Just this tampering thing is out of control, and we know it is. There's people who benefit from it that have no problem with it. I wonder why. Because they benefit from it, because they're on the higher part of the food chain. But you already have every other built-in advantage, and now you want that too. When I asked him the question about development, like, I don't know if I phrased it correctly, but it was like, is that the part you enjoy the most? Because that's the part nobody can touch. Nobody can buy development. Nobody can buy you turning a player into a first-round NFL draft pick. No one can spot that guy with money. They have to take him from you after you've already done it. So the fact that you land a guy who's a 3-star and you turn him into a first-round NFL draft pick or second-round or whatever the case may be, like, is that where you get a huge level of pride? And I think to some extent he does, but just in general, the coaching and, growing guys, he believes in the most and gets the most enjoyment out of that. But, yeah, there's others that just want to rip away the talent once you've developed it. And in today's world, you can basically do that. Yep. And they get the payoff. They get their name on the NFL draft card after you did it for 4 years and, all that. And that's got to be frustrating, but that's also where we are. So I encourage somebody to try him and see what happens, because I'd love for nothing more than to some of these guys behind the scenes to get a little bit of the sunlight shown on them. Speaking of cultivating talent, in that article we referred to of 5 stars, 4 stars, 3 stars, the top percentage of developing 4 stars into being players drafted by the NFL was Baylor. 29 4 stars over that 10-year period. 11 reached the NFL. Nearly 40%
37.9% overall was that specific number. The worst was Nebraska, not shocking. 67 4-stars, 3 of them drafted, and they have not had a 5-star since 2005. Running back was Marlon Lucky.
What's the time period for that?
2009 to 2019 as far as the recruiting rankings.
Okay, so that's Bryles, that's Rule, and that's Aranda.
And Aranda, yeah. And in fact, part of the article mentioned that despite the transitions and changes, they've been able to continue to do that. All right, when we come back, we will hear from John Cooper, Ourlad's guide to the NFL draft, and then following that, a young man that could go very much high in the draft, John Gaines II, lineman at UCLA, and his story. This is 365 Sports.
Your springtime experience begins during the Jeep Celebration event this month at Allen Samuels in Waco. Save big and get a 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited with total values up to $5,500 on both 2- and 3-row options. Or if that isn't enough, get a 2023 Jeep Gladiator Sport with up to $5,000 in total values. Plus, first responders get an extra $500. If we don't have exactly what you want, we can help you build the new custom Jeep of your dreams at Allen Samuels in Waco.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Aaron, it's premium grade East Texas beef, and you're located just outside of Tyler. No hormones, no antibiotics, no steroids, the kind of beef that people want. And then also your label is what catches people's attention as well.
Yes, we have a all-natural, pasture-raised Wagyu beef. It's a USDA label. That means our cattle never spend any time in the feed yard. They go straight from the pasture to the day of harvest, and we oversee the whole process from the beginning of the genetic choices when we make these matings to the time the calves are born, to the feed choices, all the way through when the animals are harvested. So we oversee the whole thing as a family, and we just believe, life's too short to eat average beef. So we offer people a chance to step up their game and try Wagyu beef at TexasBeefHouse.com.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Petty Clinic Men's Healthcare in Woodway is now proud to offer you men an exceptional weight management body sculpting product called semaglutide, also known as Ozempic or Wegovy. Semaglutide is an FDA-approved weight management medication. Once-a-week injections of this powerful medication offers an average body fat weight loss of 20% within the first year of treatment. In addition to body sculpting, semaglutide also normalizes blood sugars and has the clinical research proof of reducing blood pressure, cholesterol, stroke, and heart attack risk. If you're like most men and you have stubborn fat that will just not respond to typical diets and exercise, then help is finally here. Semaglutide, affordable, highly effective. Google search Petty Clinic Waco and reach out to the Petty Clinic team today for a free consultation with Dr. Petty to see if semaglutide is right for you. Go to pettycliniclowt.com.
This is 365 Sports.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
By the way, welcome to the show today from Paul and Barbara Catalina. They're in Venice, Italy, listening to us and watching us on 365 Sports. His oldest daughter's a Baylor grad. Youngest daughter is about to graduate from the University of Georgia. He, Paul, is a Penn State grad. So Paul and Barbara Catalina in Venice, Italy, thank you very much for being a part of the show. We're now joined by our friend John Cooper, Our Lad's Guide to the NFL Draft. John, okay, it's a week from the draft. What is it like the next week? Is it almost not chaos because you want to have everything like the hay's been put up in the barn, but what kind of goes on over the next 7 days?
Well, the scouts and they're putting the finishing touches on the board. The coaches, some of them have their off-season workouts going on too. So it's kind of business as usual because a lot of this has been done. I know some teams spend a lot of time doing mock drafts now. Is coaches and scout, not so much the coaches, but sometimes the coaches get involved doing mock drafts just to kind of see where players might fall. Maybe some possible trades or scenarios are brought up, and they try to play, I guess you'd say role play every possible scenario that could come up, and massage the board a little bit as some of these reports, medical reports, come in. The reports on security. They call them the security reports, things that might be in the background of some of these players. They do these pretty thorough background checks. So there's a lot of that stuff going on. And I know one team in particular, what they used to do is the day before the draft, they would tell everybody to go out, play golf, do something else. Stay out. We're gonna be, putting in some long days and nights. So get refreshed a little bit. So that's just one team I knew of.
John, I just saw this on Twitter that Kalijah Cansey, one of the best defensive prospects in the draft, has not had one single top 30 visit. Is that surprising and peculiar to you?
Yeah, that is a little bit because, we have him in the top of the second round is where we have him ranked. Of course, that wouldn't be a top 30. But I would think that somebody would like him. But it's not a great year for defensive tackles, so that that might be a factor. I think maybe other needs are bigger. But sometimes teams bring guys in, they call them top 30 visits, but they're really guys that are guys they might draft lower. I mean, like for example, it might even be a third, fourth round pick at a position of need that they want to get to know this guy, and they bring him in on that. So those things can be. Just relevant to the team.
John, what do you think the chances are that Tyree Wilson could potentially go ahead of Will Anderson? That's been some of the scuttlebutt. I know that's all talking season right now, but what do you think the chances are of that, and does that make sense depending on how that unfolded?
Well, the only thing I would say about that is, Will Anderson has a unique skill set. We think he's a top guy, athletically in the draft. He might not be a fit for everybody. I mean, a lot of teams see him as a 3-4 rush linebacker. And certain defensive schemes might want a little size, more bulk, as to that good. But I still don't see Tyree Wilson going ahead of Will Anderson. I mean, that would really surprise me if that happened.
If you look at Houston and where they are, obviously, they need a quarterback. There is always the speculation of whatever might happen. They also have another pick not too far after that, I believe. What would you do? If Young goes or if whoever Stroud's, would you take it there or would you play that game, trade down, and get more collateral?
Well, Houston needs a quarterback. That is, hard to deny that. I mean, I think I could see them trading down maybe 2 or 3 picks, but I don't think they're going to trade down, especially having that, number 12 pick in the draft right now. I don't see them doing that. I see them taking a quarterback, somewhere in the first 4 picks.
John, do you think that Hendon Hooker is starting to sneak into the first round?
Yes. I've kind of felt that could happen a long time ago. I mean, we really like Hendon Hooker. And I think if he was not coming off that ACL, I think he would definitely be a first-round pick. And I think that's the only trepidation teams have. But, you get that extra year with a first-round pick. And so, that's something that, you have to take a look at. He's a solid player. He's got great ability to scan the field, even though their offense didn't do that. But he could find alternate receivers, and he gets the ball out in a hurry, and he throws it where guys can run after the catch.
We're going to have John Gaines II from UCLA, a very athletic, has played every position, I believe, on the offensive line. Do you have much on him and your thoughts? Because it does appear as if he could be a second-day pick.
Yeah, I think he's a second / third day pick. We have him as an interior guy as far as we think where he's going to go, based on his measurements. But he's a solid player, for sure. And that's not a position, in all honesty, that is the interior guys that is that strong. So he could jump up on a lot of boards.
John, I want to ask you about a couple of edge guys out of the Big 12. I've over these segments asked you about various guys from around the league, but from K-State, Felix Anadike-Uzama, and also Will McDonald of Iowa State. I'm not sure if I've asked you about either one of those guys, but your thoughts on either player, and I've seen them a lot in the second round as far as some of these mock drafts go. Does that sound about right to you?
Yes, we like them both a lot. I think McDonald from Iowa State, he's a little bigger. We might be talking about top 10 pick. I mean, that's going to be the knock on him. He's been an off-the-ball linebacker, early in his career. He's very explosive coming off the edge, and he's got about as much bend and quickness off the edge as anybody. But, he doesn't have the bulk, that you're necessarily looking for somebody who's going to line up as a 5 technique consistently. He's like a rotational edge rusher. We see him who's going to be, we think, a very productive NFL player. Felix Anadike-Uzama, I don't know if I pronounced that right, from Kansas State. We actually have him as a grade that is just below the first round, and we may like him more than some people. We like the fact that he can come off the edge. He's got great speed coming off the edge. He can bend and squeeze around to the quarterback. He does a lot of things really well. Uses his hands well. He can, bull rush into a move. We think he's a solid player, and and again, we think we may be a little higher on both of those guys than some. But McDonald, his biggest thing going with him is he's 238 pounds. But he's got all the other measurements that you look for in an edge rusher.
How do you feel about Houston quarterback Clayton Tune?
We're down the line on him. We don't have a real great grade on him. We see him as a third day pick. I mean, he does some things well. There's all these quarterbacks have redeeming qualities, and they're, we think he's going to get drafted. Is the thing that worries you just a little bit about him is you're not sure of the overall arm strength. But like I say, he's got decent movement skills. He's a competitive player. We think he can, go smoothly into an NFL style offense. Ball security is not the best. The athleticism is okay, but he is a little bit heavy footed, I should say. But he can put the ball in the bucket on vertical routes. He does some good things. So, he flashes solid skill as a quarterback.
What position is the biggest risk year in and year out as far as the hit and miss factor?
Well, I think it's quarterback, in my opinion, because you never really know what you have until you get them in the room. How many first-round busts have we seen as quarterbacks over the years? Typically there's going to be about, maybe anywhere from 12 to 18 drafted. And I don't think there's a lot of, if you really look at the hit and miss ratio of quarterbacks, it's not that great. One general manager once told me, you don't know for sure what you have till you get them in the room. So you see what they can do on the field with your receivers. Can they get the ball in a tight window? Are they going to force the ball? What's their mental makeup? So that, to me, is the biggest hit and miss position in the draft. And all you got to do is take a look at recently at some of the guys that have not panned out.
One more thing, and we appreciate it. We asked you about names. You don't know who we're going to ask you about. On occasion, I'll trade a text with you that say, hey, let's talk about the mid-round or maybe this position or that, but you don't know who we're going to ask you about. How many of the prospects who are going to be drafted this weekend are up in your filing cabinet where you just rattle them off? Because it seems like there are a ton of them.
Well, there are. I've looked at so many players, but quite frankly, I'll draw a blank on one every now and then. But we've written like today. I did on one quarterback from UCLA. I called him the name of the linebacker named Dorian Williams instead of who he is. So yeah, that's going to happen, with those guys. But I've looked at so many players, particularly defensive guys. That. You can remember them relatively well, but there's a lot of them that, are down the line that you kind of have to let the computer boot up a little bit before you can, know who they are, or remember exactly what the characteristics, because they do run together after a while.
I bet they do. You do a great job with it. John, the draft is a week from tomorrow, excuse me. Is there a chance we squeeze you in one more time next week, the day before the draft?
Yeah, sure.
All right. I'll be in touch. Thank you very much. John Cooper, Our Lad's Guide to the NFL Draft, Our Lad's Scouting Service, have been able to ask about specifics, and then next week we'll add some more to the mix. We hope you've appreciated his insight, intel, and also his scouting experience. When we come back, one of the players we brought up, John Gaines II, big offensive lineman who's played multiple positions on the offensive line at UCLA. We asked John Cooper about him, his story, his expectations, what he's learned about the draft process, and more. And this is 365 Sports. PettyClinicLowT.com. Dr. Kent Petty can help you become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, and used to be. Dr. Kent Petty, 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone. As you get older, your testosterone can drop. It's part of father time, and for some, it's not an issue. For some, it might be other issues that you deal with, whether it's high blood pressure or something else. Hopefully, nothing. But if your symptoms are your energy's not the same, your sleep habits have changed, and your sex drive is not the same either, it could be your testosterone. So what do you do if that's the case and you're one of those 1 out of 4? Dr. Kent Petty at PettyClinicLowT.com. Contact them, email or phone number on their website. Tell them I sent you. They will set you up to get your blood work. They'll take care of that. You then decide when you go. They'll get the results. Dr. Petty will see if your testosterone levels are too low, and if they are, he can put you in a program to increase your testosterone levels. So you can become the high-performance man you want to be, need to be, used to be at PettyClinicLowT.com.
Dozens of 2023 Buicks are on the lot and priced to move at Richard Carr Buick. A prestigious luxury SUV without the luxury price. Experience the quiet escape and premium drive of a Buick SUV on a test drive today at Richard Carr. Right now, qualified buyers get a 2023 Buick Encore GX at 3.9% for 60 months, plus save $1,000 dealer discount or save $3,500 on a 2023 Buick Enclave Avenir in stock. See dealer for details.
Count on us, a dealer to trust. At Richard Carr in Waco, Texas.
Pizza, burgers, and Bears football. There's no place around Waco that serves them all other than Bubba's 33. Come show your green and gold and enjoy some of Waco's best food and beverages while watching your favorite team, the Bears. When real Bears fans get hungry, Bubba's 33 is the #1 spot for ice-cold drinks, hand-stretched, stone-baked pizzas, and bacon-infused burgers. Join us for indoor or patio dining. Bubba's 33, Waco's restaurant and proud supporter of Baylor Bears football. Sick 'em, Bears.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs. Even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, a wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trust. Baylor Scott and White Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive is premier, elite, life-changing experience where you can change your mind, body, and soul. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness offers over 40 group exercise classes each week, including boot camp, indoor cycling, and more. If you haven't been there in quite some time, you're missing out on the improvements for our members. New flooring in the weight room and locker room, new paint and mirrors added in the weight room and group exercise room, with more new machines arriving over the next few months. New free weights, weight machines, TRX, rowing machines, stationary bikes, new treadmills, new elliptical machines on spacious weight room floor. Personal training with Christy London, Randall Corley, and Alex Botch, where you will be encouraged and motivated to grow. There's sauna, whirlpool, tanning bed, and kids club. The amenities are great. 16 tennis courts plus an 1,100-seat stadium court, 8 pickleball courts, youth and adult tennis and pickleball lessons. Visit our website, wacotennis.com, or visit Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lakeshore Drive in Waco.
This is 365 Sports. Text us at 254-339-1122. The text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
We'll have John Gaines the second here in a moment, but Garrett, this is amazing. Winnipeg Jets forward Morgan Barron was in a scrum near the net in a game between Vegas in the Western Conference first round. Players collapsed around the front of the net in pursuit of the loose puck, and the goalie, Laurent Bossette, his skate cut Barron 75 stitches. He went back in. And he's very fortunate that the skate did not go any further, close, like actually near his eyeball, because those things at the end, my goodness, very, very fortunate. Went to the locker room, returned in the second period with a full cage on his head, finished the game. 16 different shifts after, of course, he got hit with the skate.
Dang. Hockey players are crazy.
Yeah, I think the kind of disappointing part is that you're surprised that he went back in. I mean, that's
not
hockey.
No,
no.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think that's as long as you're on 2 feet and you can hold
Different
the stick
animal.
and you can skate, then I think you're going to be out there 150 stitches. Now, maybe you couldn't do that, but yeah, that's toughness that you don't see all that often, but you see quite a bit in the game of hockey, and that's why a lot of people love it and appreciate it for what it is. And yeah, that's some big boy stuff right there.
Put his picture back up, Garrett, not because of the cut, but Gregory Krug said he looks like, is it Cillian Murphy? Cillian Murphy, who's an actor, right?
Yeah, from Peaky Blinders.
Yeah.
That's what I thought it was at first, too. I was like, why are we doing this here?
Yeah, I love Cillian Murphy. Love Peaky Blinders. I'll watch Oppenheimer just because of Cillian Murphy being the lead actor in that. And plus, it'd be kind of fascinating to see a movie about the creation of the atomic bomb. Mm-hmm. USA. But yeah, he's going to be in that coming up. So yeah, I love Cillian Murphy, and he does look a bit like him.
So there was a comment by, let's see here, about RG3, looking at players and whatever else, that mentioned that RG3 would have ended up at Houston, but Baylor had a better offer. The offer was that Art Briles became the head coach at Baylor. That was it, because he was committed to play at Houston for Briles, who was one of the few that recruited him as a quarterback. Bryles takes the job at Baylor. And then, of course, RG3 follows. We're now joined by John Gaines II. He is an offensive lineman from UCLA. John, thanks for your time with Paul, Craig, and David. We just had an NFL scouting director, a guy that does this for a living. We mentioned you. He really likes the fact you've played multiple positions on the offensive line. Is that one of your strengths going into this draft?
Yeah, definitely. First and foremost, thank you so much for having me. But throughout this process, I've really tried to show my versatility. Like you said, I've actually started at 4 positions in my time here at UCLA, and it's something I'm really grateful for. I know I can add a lot of depth and a lot of value anywhere I'm on the field, and I know I'm really ready to contribute anywhere.
John, where have they told you they want you to play, or is that one of the things that maybe it depends on the team that you go to?
Yeah, I think it's really dependent on the team, but I showed really good plays at all the positions I played at. So for me, it's just I know I'm definitely going to be an interior guy at the next level, but either center or guard, depending on who you talk to and on the day. But I know I can play both at a high level.
John, what was it like to play for Chip Kelly and just be out there in Westwood for playing for the Bruins? I mean, it's a unique school, great academics. We know all about that. But just from your personal experience, what was that like? And as I mentioned, playing for a guy like Chip Kelly along the way.
Yeah, it was a blessing. UCLA was a great choice for me. Having that combination of academics and athletics at the highest level was great. And then I was Coach Kelly's first recruiting class here at UCLA. And I just think the element of professionalism he brought every single day in my 5 years here, it was always about getting better day by day, not making things better than they need to be, and then handling the process. And that's something that really speaks volumes to, how I've approached this pre-draft process, is taking it day by day. I'm really grateful for him, all the knowledge he shared with me, all the different schemes we ran while we were here, and just I feel really well equipped for the next level.
John, you're not going to be a part of the move, but obviously UCLA moves into the Big Ten in a couple of years. How much of that conversation has been within the football program?
Same thing like I was talking about with Coach Kelly, not trying to make things bigger than they are. We have no control over it, players. And honestly, whoever you put in front of us and whoever you put in front of those guys, they're going to play hard. And I'm just excited to see my boys ball out in a couple of years.
John Gaines, the second football player, offensive lineman from UCLA, with us on 365 Sports.
John, what has it been like to see the renaissance of UCLA football as a player and now as a fan over the last couple of years?
Yeah, it's really cool. I came in, we went 3-9 my freshman year, and then being able to help be part of that transformation of the team, which is great. The Rose Bowl's always been a packed stadium that's lively. We see 100,000. You're never really going to get 100,000 at a game in the middle of Saturday in LA, but those who show up have great energy every single time, and nothing like a night game at the Rose Bowl. It's just a great experience. Seeing so many great players come in, so many people that I grew up with and came here with, go into the league. I'm going to be next in line with that. And, just being able to see all my teammates and my boys balling out. It's a great feeling.
So you finish up your career at a great institution and out there in L.A., and now who knows where you go, but we know that you're going somewhere. When did this dream of playing in the NFL really begin for you? And I guess in line with that, John, is where did just kind of the football dream and getting into playing the game and having that love for the game, where did all that sort of start for you and get to where you are right now?
Yeah, my love of football started really early. So it was actually in elementary school. I went to Underwood Elementary. I'm going back when I go back for the week of the draft. But we used to play this thing called Kimmel football. Mr. Kimmel was a fifth grade science teacher. And when I was in third grade, it was third through fifth grade, that was out at lunch. We used to be out there. We had this giant field. He was a big, buff teacher. He's the all-time quarterback, but as long as I've been playing football since then, it's just been a dream of mine to play at the highest level. It's always been something that brings a lot of fun to me. I've played on a lot of different teams and made lifelong friends to it. So I'm forever grateful for the game of football.
John Gaines is second with us. So give everybody the story of the tattoo underneath your left bicep.
Yes, sir. So it says "That's Life." Beginning my freshman year, I went home for Christmas, and my father sat me down. He let me know that he was diagnosed with kidney cancer. He's going to have to get both kidneys removed. Obviously I broke down in tears, but what he told me is, that's life. I have to handle my responsibility. I'm still going to be present. I'm still got to make sure the bills are paid, things like that. And for me, it's just a matter of putting things in perspective. My entire career, my dad was going through dialysis 3 times a week. So he only came out for the USC games that entire time. He's just recently is a kidney cancer survivor. Got a kidney transplant right before this last season. So it's a blessing. But it put everything in perspective for me. You know, my parents are going through so much. They've always been so supportive of me. And at the end of the day, it's about me representing them the best I can.
So when you heard the news about a donor match, because that's not something that's just automatic. It's not like going to get, something at the store. What was that emotion like for you and for the family?
Yeah, it was a years-long process. It was throughout my entire career, like I'm saying before, but just it was crazy because my dad got let known he was cancer-free. And then about a week later, he was told he was cancer-free, and then he would be on the donor list finally. And it was really fast, actually. About a week later, he got the call. Like, all right, we got a kidney for you. You got to come to UW-Madison Hospital. Coach Kelly sent me home, actually, when my dad got his kidneys removed during my freshman year, right before spring ball. And it was kind of full circle because first week of fall camp was when my dad got that call, and they sent me on the first plane back, too. Just being able to be with my dad at that pivotal point in life is crazy. It's a whirlwind of emotions, obviously. I don't even think we really processed it till I'd probably say the end of the season. Just being able to really sit down and think about the fact that it's such a blessing,
Not a great story. That's a great story. You had to deal with it as a freshman and also throughout, and glad everything has worked out.
John, I don't mean to drop down to something that's completely not serious at all, but you're a Wisconsin guy, and then you moved to Los Angeles. What is it like now to go back and visit in reverse? Do you think, oh my gosh, the weather here is crazy, or do you just cherish your time in the weather in LA, which doesn't make any sense?
Yeah, I always talk to my mom about the weather back in Wisconsin. It's always a funny thing. I'll be like, oh, it's 75 right here. She's like, oh, it's snowing. And I'm really blessed to grow up the way I did. Wisconsin's all I've ever known. I was born in Atlanta, but we moved down to Wisconsin when I was 3 months old. So I'm a Midwestern kid at heart. Especially when it's raining out here. People can't drive in LA when it's 75 and sunny. So just imagine what it's like when it's raining. So, yeah, I've driven in all the elements. I've shoveled snow. That was one thing my dad always made sure I did, making sure I shoveled snow for my mom before we got home. And then just, at the end of the day, like, I'm really accustomed to any conditions. We don't wear sleeves at UCLA, or I didn't wear sleeves as an offensive lineman. And that's something that came from playing in high school in Wisconsin. My last high school game, it was like -10, and nobody was wearing sleeves. It's just the way we were brought up, and that never left. I'm very thankful to be where I am, but I'm happy to play anywhere. At the end of the day, put the ball in the dirt.
I'd imagine that UCLA and now USC will be looking for a lot of Wisconsin offensive linemen used to the cold, given who they're going to be playing here in the future, playing Wisconsin and Michigan and Minnesota and all those schools. What are your thoughts as a guy who obviously isn't going to be affected by it, but you played Pac-12 football? What are your thoughts, being from Big Ten country as well, on how the LA schools are going to fit in?
Honestly, I just know UCLA is going to run the ball, and I think it's great to be in a conference like that. I'm not really going to speak on USC. It's not my forte, and I probably don't have much good to say anyway. But
I understand.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think they're going to be fine. I think they're going to thrive. Pac-12 football always has a weird aura about it from the outside world looking in. But I mean, I'm 1-0 against the SEC. That's all I know. And if you play big time football, you get big time players that go out and play hard. Doesn't really matter where you come from.
John Gaines II, where will you be on draft day?
Be back in Wauwatosa, Wisconsin.
All right. Well, and around family, friends, and whatever else. I saw a little video clip. I watched some things of when you were at practice, a little bit about your life. That's where I heard and saw the story about your father and the kidney, the kidney removal, and also then a donor replacement. You are obviously a great communicator. How much does that help you, and how much and how important is that on the offensive line?
I'd say it's probably first and foremost the biggest thing for us, especially at UCLA. We have a lot of calls, a lot of communication, and then being able to cut it down where you can see an image and you know exactly what you need to say, where you can be rapid fire with it. When everybody's on the same page, regardless if it's going wrong, we can make something good happen. So communication is always going to really be factor to playing here at UCLA, and it's something I really pride myself on. I really pride myself on knowing that my teammates can count on me, and them knowing that they can come to me if they need something, and that's on and off the field. So it's a really big, valuable asset, and I love to be able to bring that every single play.
What is your hobby outside of football? What is something you like to do? I know video games, whatever for some, but what is something that John Gaines does to get away from the game?
Biggest thing for me is just cooking. So, getting my mind right. So Thursdays were our off days, or our walkthrough days. during the weeks. And, you know, I usually try to make some like cool, elaborate recipe. And then during the off season, of course, I'm going and buying these weird ingredients, kind of make stuff from scratch. Which is something that allows me to, I think it's just being really technical and really, you know, having that attention to detail just in a different way. It's really something interesting to me. So.
All right. So when we come to Shea Gaines, the restaurant, what's the specialty?
You know, I've watched a lot of, there's a big YouTube channel called Eater, and they talk a lot about like open fire cooking and like dry aged steaks and stuff like that. I think steakhouses always have a cool vibe to them, so that'd be definitely something cool that I want to look into, and I'm definitely going to buy a dry aged fridge at some point in my life. So,
there you go.
We'll see.
Would you like to, once you get drafted, and you will, and maybe get a nice bonus, any chance that if you ever get a chance to get a break, you go to a culinary school?
You know, I was thinking, you know, maybe at the end of my career, win a couple Super Bowls, be able to go work and be really attentive to detail on something else. I think it's really something cool and admirable about that. And then maybe I'll just go the route of just franchising restaurants. You know, either way, I just want to be around food. I think food's an expression of love. My grandfather, my papa, he taught me that. He was a chef in the Army for 20 years. So that's always how we got together. It was always big family gatherings around food. And, you know, for me, the biggest expression of love is cooking a beautiful plate for somebody. So, yeah.
Have you watched the Food Network or these other shows where there's competition and, you know, like you're on a 30-minute clock, like Top Chef or whatever it is?
Chop?
Chop. What do you think is more pressure, taking on an edge rusher or someone who's trying to get to the quarterback, or in one of those competition shows?
Definitely anything where you're under intense pressure, I'd say taking on a sack. But, you know, at the end of the day, it's about being prepared for the moment. And I think that's the thing, you know, it's mastery of your craft. You see a lot of those chefs don't look like they're stressed and they're cool under pressure because that's what they do on a day-to-day basis, is looking to challenge yourself. And you know that you belong to be in that moment in the first place. And that's the same thing with being on the football field, right? Of course, you do feel a little bit of pressure, a little nervous because you care. At the end of the day, that's all it is. You care. But if you've done everything up to that moment to be prepared, there's nothing to be worried about because you're going to get the end result you want if you put in the work that's worth it.
Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. That doesn't mean you have to be lucky, but that's always something that I've tried to say. Give us something about yourself, and we'll let you go. Thanks for your time today. Give us something about you that maybe people don't know, unless they are absolutely among your inner circle.
Yeah, I'm not big on social media, but my girlfriend and I have 4 cats. They're all named after Marvel or Star Wars characters. I'm a big nerd, so yeah, there's actually one sitting next to me right now. She's asleep, but yeah, I have 4 cats. Love them to death. Yeah.
What are the names?
Mace, Finn, Thor, and Loki.
Mace, Finn, Thor, and Loki. Okay.
There you go.
Yeah.
What kind of cat? Are they Siamese cats, or are they just big old teddy?
Nah, they're all adopted. They're all domestic short hairs. One's a tortie. One has a little poofy tail, so maybe a long hair, and then the other 2 are just little short hairs. So yeah.
Man, when they get out, they start purring against you. That's awesome, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's awesome.
One thing about cats, that I had cats all throughout most of my life, is that they don't care whether you give them attention, but when they want attention, you better give it to them.
Oh,
right?
yeah. That's the first one we got. His name's Mace, the little black cat. His favorite thing to do is put him lay directly on top of your chest because he's like, I need attention now. So,
Yep.
you know.
Hey, John, it's been great to get you on the show, also to hear about you, learn from you, get to know a lot about you, and we appreciate your time, and the best of luck a week from Thursday and throughout the NFL draft, and whatever you do, wherever you go. I got a feeling you're going to have a lot of success. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me.
John Gaines II, former UCLA offensive lineman, and even what John Cooper said from Our Lads, it appears as if he could be in that second day. Bottom line is he's multidimensional of the various positions, played 4 different positions during his time at UCLA, and what a great story about his father recovering from kidney cancer. Thanks to Lauren and Neil and what they do to help us, Neil Stratton and Lauren, in what she does, Birchville, to help us with these guests. And we're going to have another one tomorrow, and maybe 2 or 3 more between now and the draft next Thursday. 423, around the corner, former 3-time All-Pro NFL star Sean Merriman on what he does. He's the founder of Lights Out and the next event coming up in early May, and his thoughts about what was going through him, his brain and mind and emotions as he was getting ready for the NFL draft when he was drafted. This is 365 Sports.
Richard
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. They are the people that you can count on for a great deal for your car, great customer service, and great repairs as well, if that's what you are in the market for, whatever you're in the market for. Right now, they're celebrating over 25 years in Central Texas, and they want to celebrate with you by taking care of your vehicle, or close to 25 years, I should say, the 24th anniversary soon, but they want to take care of you and help celebrate this anniversary by taking care of your vehicle or getting you into one that you're going to be proud to drive. Right now, big savings on pre-owned cars and trucks include the GMC Sierras and the Buick Envision SUVs. There are dozens of Sierra trucks on the lot right now, and qualified buyers can save thousands on the SLT or SLE 1500s when it comes to the Sierras. Qualified buyers can also get special 2.9% financing on the new 2023 GMC Sierra trucks. If you're looking for the SUV route rather than the pickup route, well, they've got those too. The 2023 Buick Encores, Buick Envisions, Buick Enclaves, luxury SUVs without luxury price tags. Right now, qualified buyers can get low financing and also save $2,500 on Buick Enclave Premiums or $3,500 on Buick Enclave Avenir. And they also have a lot full of quality pre-owned cars and trucks as well. They also have their service department to keep you on the road, standing by always for your phone call. Need something fixed up, they'll handle that. So new cars, pre-owned cars, just fixing the car that you're in, they can take care of all of those things. Go to richardcar.com to see their service specials and to set an appointment for quick and reliable repair or whatever else it is you're looking for. For 24 years in Central Texas, go celebrate with the people that have built a reputation as the ones you can count on for your automotive needs for over 2 decades. Richard Carr, run by proud Central Texans. Log on to richardcar.com today. Call them now or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial exit.
TFNB Your Bank for Life is the official local bank of Baylor Athletics. Find out why more Central Texas are making TFNB their bank for life. Sign up for our Edge checking and savings accounts to earn interest or cash back. With 5 convenient locations and an award-winning mobile app, banking has never been easier. TFNB Your Bank for Life. Member FDIC.
In Texas, there's pea-size hail and baseball-size hail. Guess which one hit our house? We didn't even know where to begin, but we called our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent, and he was so reassuring. He knew exactly what to do to get our house back into shape and our lives back to normal. Now, we're even more thankful for the roof over our heads.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations. Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead. In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive and North 19th Street, right behind the bank, is a hidden gem in Waco. If you're a fan of bourbon, especially local Texas bourbons, that's where you gotta go. Balcones, TX, Devil's River, whatever it is, they've got it. Riverbend Liquor and Wine, plus the best selection of craft beers in Waco, seasonally churned out throughout the year. Whether it's spring, summer, fall, or winter, Riverbend Liquor and Wine, best selection of craft beers, a speedy drive-through window, and excellent customer service. Find out more on Instagram or just go by and see them. Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street behind the bank.
Waco Custom Marketplace is your hometown grocery store with a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Hi, this is David Smoak. The butcher shop can take your customized orders for seafood, pork, and poultry and custom cut your favorite steaks from bacon-wrapped fillets to T-bone to bone-in ribeyes. Cut specifically the way you want. They have Norwegian salmon fillets, catfish fillets, sliced ham or turkey and lunch meat, variety of cheese available, and several options of sausage links. Fresh chicken breast or whole chickens, sliced bacon, pork chops, ground beef, marinated beef, and chicken fajitas, and always large briskets available, plus fresh vegetables. So the great product, customer service, and family tradition of the Bauer family continues at Waco Custom Marketplace, open Monday through Saturday. A full-service butcher shop and bakery available. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
This is 365 Sports, powered by SicEm365.com.
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
So Saturday night, I've mentioned a couple of times this week about the Texas Sports Hall of Fame induction, including Adrian Peterson. And there was a clip that I happened to see on my timeline, on my Twitter timeline. Adrian cracked the people up a couple of different times talking about discipline and also his recruiting story. And I've interviewed, we have, Adrian Peterson a handful of times over the years. In fact, even on the day he signed with Oklahoma, and before that when he committed. But he told the story about his recruitment. I think some of the teams that were heavily involved were USC, Oklahoma, Texas, and I believe LSU. I believe it was LSU at the time. Here is Adrian, like 2 minutes long, and his speech in part of why he picked Oklahoma.
Coach Stoops, actually, he called me yesterday. We talked about 10 minutes, and he was telling me he wasn't going to be able to make it, but gave me the congratulations. Now, I know there's a lot of Longhorns and Aggies in here and Bears, and they like, the number one question I get is, why did you go to Oklahoma? Why you leave the state? And I tell them, I said, listen, I remember going to, like when Priest, my uncle played with Priest and Ricky and those guys. They were cold. I remember going to watch them play, and I remember sitting outside of the stadium, waiting for my uncle to come out. And I'm looking, I'm like, I'll be back here one day. Like, I was Texas all the way. But for the people that find themselves being mad at me about going to Oklahoma, this is what I'll say. If you're going to be mad at anybody, be mad at Coach Mack Brown. And this is why I say that. I sat in Coach Brown's office, and I asked him the same thing I asked everyone else. Coach Stoops, will I have the opportunity to come in and compete? Yeah, sure. Pete Carroll, will I have the opportunity to come in and compete for the starting job if I come? Yeah. Nick Saban, can I have the opportunity? Mack Brown, if I come here, will I have the opportunity to come in and compete for the starting job? He was like, well, Adrian, I'm not going to lie to you. Cedric Benson, he decided to come back for his senior year. So, we're going to be loyal to him and we're going to let him ride it out. But, after that, you can compete for it. I said, okay. I appreciate it. And that was it. I never told him that I wasn't coming. But that was the decisions that I made based off of that. So you guys can share this story just in case, or the people that didn't know, now you know, and you can share the story.
All right, so the story about him visiting with those coaches, and really it's a compliment to Mac Brown. If you really think about it, Cedric Benson had decided to come back. Cedric Benson, his senior year, had 1,834 yards, 19 touchdowns, also had 22 catches. His backup, Will Matthews, had 38 carries, so there was that conflict that Benson was there. He was going to be the guy. Now, having said that, Adrian Peterson's freshman year had 1,925 yards, a freshman record. He also carried and had 225 yards against Texas in that game in 2004. It's part of the deal, but it's a compliment to Mac Brown. He was staying and being honest about Cedric Benson coming back, and I wouldn't have wanted a freshman running back, no matter how good he was, to be able to unseat. Not if he could, good. But there's the story on him picking the University of Texas. I started to look at Adrian Peterson's freshman year. It's pretty crazy. 11 100-yard games. 3 200 yards or more against Texas, Baylor, and Oklahoma State. Finished second in the Heisman Trophy behind USC quarterback Matt Leinart. Leinart had 1,325 overall votes. Peterson had 997. But you wonder how many would have had. Jason White, the quarterback at Oklahoma, had 957. They kind of split the vote.
Yeah, but Reggie Bush was also there too, so they split the vote for USC.
Yeah, he must have been what in that? He was not second or third, but he
must have been fourth. But yeah, I clearly remember it was Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush, and it was Jason White and Adrian Peterson because they went and played. Mm-hmm. They went and played in the national championship game, and that was the Heisman finalist. And I believe it was Jason White, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I pretty clearly remember that it was an all OU USC final, and Adrian got slighted somewhat because of the fact that he was a freshman. I remember that very vividly, and a lot of voters, at least from what I recall at the time, we didn't have 24/7 podcasts and streaming shows and all of that kind of stuff to, constantly hear chatter. But what I do remember from the chatter that was out there was there were people who just said, oh, well, he'll be back. He'll get his opportunity again in the future to win a Heisman. He's only a freshman. And I just feel like that was a disgraceful way to go about voting because you don't know what happens next, and he would get hurt, and he would not be arguably as good as he was that freshman year, even though he was plenty good. But, that might have been his best crack at winning it, and there were some people who and I don't know, maybe it was two guys, but I do remember there was at least some of that sentiment of, he'll be around, he'll get his opportunity, and I feel like that was a real disservice to him. Whether Matt Leinart deserved it or not, I'm not going to argue that. Those USC teams were great, and they went to prove it in that blowout victory over Oklahoma. But, that bothered me and still kind of does a little bit, even if it didn't make a huge difference in the end.
Johnny Manziel, technically a freshman, won the Heisman Trophy. The following year, Florida State's quarterback and Jameis Winston won the Heisman Trophy.
I mean, as well, they all should have. Adrian Peterson, it is weird that you would have this, a freshman can't win this.
Do you remember that, though?
Yeah, I do.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, but it was, one of those things that I think Adrian Peterson was probably – he was the guy who didn't break the glass ceiling on that freshman thing, but probably made a lot of people think, it's pretty dumb you wouldn't vote for that guy as a freshman because he was so fantastic that – what does it matter? If you're the best player in the country, does it matter what year you are? No, you're the award, which I think for a long time, I think the debate has been everybody kind of has their different things that they're voting for. Some guys are only going to bet, their ballot's going to be the 5 best quarterbacks in the country. And what about a wide receiver or a defensive, anybody who's the best player? You're a Heisman voter. It doesn't tell you, don't you dare vote for this.
No.
You just vote for the best player in the country. And so I think that that's strange. I do want to mention something about Mac Brown, though. I think it's funny. Mac Brown does, and they won the national championship, and he built up Texas up to a level that they were not at for a long time and haven't been at since. But we seem to hear more about the guys that Mac Brown missed out on than the guys that he got, which also tells you how well they were recruiting that they were able to turn some of them away. Now, the post-2005 guys that he said no to, particularly at quarterback, are the ones that really sting.
Well, not 2005. It was,
post 2005.
Okay.
Like once
but
after 2005.
Colt McCoy was pretty, Colt McCoy probably could have won the Heisman Trophy instead of Mark Ingram in 2009.
Vince Young could have won it instead of Reggie Bush if you really want to have
2005.
fights over it. I mean, there's debates there, but yeah.
But I see what you're saying, that you hear about the quarterbacks with Luck and Griffin, among some others that apparently at the time they just weren't there. But I always will say this, and my defense of that is not defending that Mac Brown needs it, but Garrett Gilbert was everybody's number one guy, basically, when he was coming out of Lake Travis, and it just did not work out for him.
Yeah, because they went all in on him.
Yeah.
And they never did that again, and most teams avoided ever doing that because of that very reason. Like Austin Novosad going all in on a guy and just trusting that that'll work out or that person will be around, and then you're left with empty hands. Gilbert, feel bad for the guy. He had a very up and down career. He turned into a hell of a long pro career, though. I mean, he's done really well for himself, and clearly what people saw was legit because he's been playing football all this time. But just wasn't ready to be thrust into the action of a national championship game against the start of the Alabama dynasty, and then all of the expectations that came just with being the number one guy and the savior of, the future of Texas football, or just the star of the future of Texas football. I can imagine that was a lot to handle. Talk about an NIL baby, though. Garrett Gilbert would have been making millions of dollars back in that era as the number one guy. But, Mac aired and going all in on him. I did want to make mention when I was talking about the USC Heisman finalist, I did feel like there was one guy that was an outsider to that, and it was Alex Smith. So I need to mention him as well. But it was Leinart, Peterson, White, Smith finished fourth, and Reggie Bush finished fifth in the voting. So I figured I knew there was somebody, but Alex Smith from Utah was also a part of that New York City grouping. So
Garrett Gilbert coming out of Lake Travis,
and Benson was number 6. So circling back to the start of the story,
he had a big-time year.
He had a pretty good year at Texas and wouldn't have been able to do all he did if Adrian Peterson had been hanging around there.
Guys, guess how many in 4 years at Cedric Benson, he put up huge numbers at Texas. How many carries do you think he had in 4 years?
Like 400 something?
No, carries overall. His career at Texas over 4 years.
400 something?
1,100 some carries.
Oh, God.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no, I think, duh. I'm thinking
that's okay.
Entirely differently.
300 and some on average. Not quite 300 on average every year. Garrett Gilbert, when he came out of Lake Travis, was the 18th ranked overall national recruit. He was the 3rd highest rated recruit out of Texas, and he was the 2nd overall nationally at quarterback. And I don't know who else would have been.
That's not how it felt, though. It felt like he was the number one overall dude. He felt like he was Arch Manning back the way that he was talked about. I remember that vividly. And maybe it's just, brainwashing from message board posts or something, but I remember how big the hype was around Garrett Gilbert. So if you tell me that like 10 years from now, I would have sworn he was the number one overall player in that class and whatnot. But no, he wasn't. He did, though. That doesn't change the amount of pressure he had on his shoulders, because even if he wasn't listed that way, he was treated that way, and the expectations were that way. And, obviously he ended up at SMU and then the pros, but glad it worked out for him overall.
The only quarterback ranked ahead of him was a guy that was really good from Mater in California, Matt Barkley, who was a 5-star, ranked 5th overall in that same class. It was a heck of a class.
A heck of a whiff on the quarterback ratings. I mean, maybe just based on their talent level, okay, and I know that's a lot of times what they do, but as far as production goes, that's not the most banner year for the quarterback quarterbacks at the top of the list. Just how they panned out collegiately.
Was Barkley pretty good at USC?
He was all right, but USC wasn't.
He's another. And you talk about another dude that's like the golden boy, though, and he was the next great. He was the next Matt Leinart, and he was the next this and that, and he was not that in college to the extent that anybody expected. He was fine.
The Rose Bowl in 2005 was the last great day for 2 schools. Well, I mean, not 2. Well, I mean, Texas had the one 3 years later. I keep forgetting about, but that was the last great day for USC for a long time.
The championship appearance.
Yeah, that was one of the last great days for a very long time.
Barkley had a good career. I mean, freshman, 15 touchdowns, 14 interceptions wasn't great, but they only lost 3 games, and that was just a freshman year. Had 26 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He threw a lot of interceptions, but he threw a lot of touchdowns as well, and they lost 4 games the following year, and so on and so forth. I mean, he put up numbers, but they weren't the winning level of USC that carried on the torch, so to speak, like they would have liked to have done back then.
Aaron Murray was the 3rd highest rated quarterback. He went to Georgia. All right, it's 4:44 when we come back. Sean Merriman, former 3-time All-Pro defensive player with the Chargers in the NFL, and now the founder of Lights Out, an event coming up on May the 6th. Sean Merriman, next on 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco, and the 2023 Jeep Compass Latitude, $2,000 in total values, plus 5.9% for 72 months. The 2023 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited, $5,500 in total values, and that's 5.9% as well. $5,500 in total values, no other of the APR financing. It is Jeep Celebration Event Month. It's also Ram Truck Month, including the 2023 Ram 1500 Crew Cab Lone Stars, $4,250 in values, plus 4.9% for 72 months. Great selection, clean, nicest pre-owned cars, and they're looking for your really elite pre-owned cars. If it's clean and it's very good and it has no problems, they want your pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs. Alan Samuels, Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco. We're now joined by 3-time All-Pro Sean Merriman, who's also the founder of Lights Out. We've had Sean on the show before. And Sean, thanks for your time with Paul Craig. And I'm David Smoak. So May the 6th, tell us a little bit about your upcoming card.
Yeah, we have a huge fight Saturday, May 6th in L.A. Obviously, you guys down there probably can't get to it. But we'll be live on Fubo Sports. Fubo. We'll be live on Fubo. So if you don't have Fubo, get it. This is our biggest card yet. We got the next up-and-coming superstars in this card. And we got, some pretty big announcements coming that I'll be making in the middle of the fight as well.
Alberto Romo and Matthias Camillo. Tell us about that specific fight.
I can't wait to see Matthias. I'm going to see him about an hour. As you know, I still kind of box and hit mitts and spar once in a while myself, and I run into it in the gym, and I'm watching him over my shoulder, and I almost forget that he actually has a fight coming up. I'm saying, what is this guy going so hard for over there? And I said, oh, that's right. He got a big one coming up. So he's a rising superstar, man. You guys, make sure you remember that name, Matthias. He's going to be one of the next up-and-coming superstars of this sport.
Sean, how do you it looks like things are kind of exploding for you guys right now. How much of it is what's going on with the sport right now and your ability to find some of these new fighters?
Well, for one, as you see, MMA is just on fire, not just here in the States, but globally. The sport is kind of caught on all over, and since our last fight, we moved into Fubo Sports top 10 most watched all time. So, we were showing in Canada and France and some parts of Spain. So I've had fighters reaching out from Spain. And obviously, the NFL's not big down there. They don't watch NFL, so they don't know me from that. They know me from MMA. So as you said, man, this sport is on fire, and I'm happy I get a chance to promote the next up-and-coming superstars. These young men and women coming up is going to be big time here, but they want to come and take fights and like how to train fighting before they get a chance to possibly go to the UFC one day.
Sean, I think you've talked about it before, but for those who haven't heard your story, how did the crossover with MMA originally begin for you and eventually lead into where you have this stake and you have this promotion and you're being able to talk about it and love everything about what that brings for you?
Yeah, I grew up in the Maryland, D.C. area around a ton of boxers. Actually, I had uncles who were professional boxers. So I just grew up around boxers. Between 2005 and 2006, Jay Glazer over at Fox Sports actually said, hey, man, I think you should pick up MMA because it might help you out being a better outside linebacker and pass rusher using your hands. And I said, look, if it's going to help me be a better pass rusher, sign me up. Just tell me where to go. And the next day, the same day he sent me an address, I showed up. And Randy Couture's in the gym. that was my first day training MMA with Randy Couture, and so I've been training every offseason since, and had a love and passion for the sport. And actually, to be honest, I've been pushing a lot of former athletes to pick up some form of combat sports. Right? You don't have to take a fight, but you hear about a lot of guys struggling making that transition. It's because they don't compete in anything anymore. So for me, I found it was a multi-purpose, if you could say it. It helped me stay disciplined. It helped me stay competing or something. And I love being around these guys, man. It's the closest thing I get to the locker room.
In fact, there was a tweet from earlier today that, Garrett, I think I sent this to you, that just destroyed my upper body in the gym. Now I can put these suitcases down.
Yeah. I try to get my weights in early in the morning before meetings and, life happens. And if anybody's a meathead like myself, you know how those suitcases look when you can't put your arms down when you leave the gym. So that was me this morning.
Sean Merriman, it's a week away from the draft. And when you were at Maryland, highly thought prospect, and obviously turned out to be that way when you're coming out of Maryland, what was it like for you? Do you have any specific draft day memory?
Yeah. It was a couple, they started talking about me at number one to San Francisco, and obviously they went to Alex Smith, and my name came up again, 3 to Cleveland. They went with Braylon Edwards. Came up again with the number 7 pick with Minnesota. Came up again with the Dallas at 11, and finally, the Chargers had pulled the trigger. And it was a fun. It was by that time the combine is over. All the hard part for us is over, and I think the draft was more fun for your family and friends and high school coaches and the people around. But for the most part, man, you just ready to get back, have your name called, and just get to work.
I mean, other people have to wait a lot longer, but 1 to 11, what's your stomach feel like?
Well, actually, I had a friend that called me around the 9th pick, and he called me and said, "Hey, man, are you watching the draft?" I said, "Yeah, you dummy, I'm about to get drafted. Of course I'm watching, right?" And I picked up the phone thinking that it was going to be, I think it was Ken with Detroit Lions, and to be honest, I wasn't ready to go to Detroit. And so I thought that Detroit Lions were about to draft me with the 5th pick, but it was just my friend calling to see if I was watching the draft. That was the last day I spoke to him, so I moved on.
Major mistake on his part, for sure. When does it all sort of sink in for you? I mean, as you mentioned, you get the call, and then I know it's pretty fast and furious. Then you're going to the facility, and you're meeting the coaches, and you're getting everything, and your ducks in a row. But when do you get that moment of being able to exhale and the dream has come true? Is that when you get the phone call, or does that occur a little bit after things sort of settle down for you?
It's the phone call, man, and that's why you see so many guys emotional during that time period with their family around, because it is a dream come true. Like, your name is your life is changed overnight when someone tells you that they're going to draft you for multiple reasons, not just for financial reasons, but everything you work for, right? How many years you sit in college, the winter workouts, the off season, the pre-draft stuff, the combine, everything you had to do leading up to that moment. And then, you feel like you accomplished something, but obviously the real goal is now the work begins. Right, you got your foot in the door. They called your name. Now you have to go and prove your worth to your teammates in that organization.
Sean, what's the hardest you've been hit, in the ring or in football?
Well, Maurice Jones-Drew got me one time in 2017. That was pretty good. But I would say I was sparring a pretty big heavyweight one time and got clocked when I just was starting out. I walked in the gym. I thought that my britches were a lot bigger than what they were. You come in there, you're a football player, you're big, you're strong, you're athletic, and you don't know how to punch just yet. And so I got my lesson learned that day, and from that point on, I just picked up on the sport.
So did MJD get you because of that? I mean, he's a shorter guy. Did that leverage just pop you?
Oh, no, they ran a fake fullback block at me, and he was behind the fullback, standing at 5'6". And I didn't see him. It caught me right up under the chin. And I didn't, at the time, I didn't think it was that big of a hit. But I looked and on the jumbotron, and I heard the big ooh in the crowd. I said, okay, something must have really bad happened. It's a lot worse than what I thought. But no, it doesn't compare of someone ringing your bell in the cage or ring. That one hurts.
Yeah, did it by any chance want you to get back in the ring because of your competitive heart and desire, or did it kind of make you wonder for a second?
No, I wanted to get back in there. A lot of us athletes, we have a lot of pride and ego, and because we're used to being, kind of that top dog around. And so I was just trying to figure out why this guy that was, with no muscles and not bigger than me are able to punch me and make it hurt, right? So I wanted to find out, okay, what if I learn how to punch? Can I make someone else hurt? And that's what really what really made me pick up on the sport. Also, when I first started out, I had a wrestler that was 185 pounds, of NCAA champion. And, I'm walking around at 265, 270. He took me to the ground, and I couldn't get up. And so that day was pretty humbling for me. So I just, I was eager to learn that discipline to get back in there.
Sean, why has what you are doing with Lights Out and other competitions that have popped up over the years that have been successful, but now with yours, why is it so popular?
Well, for one, I was fortunate to have a platform of mine because I played in the NFL. You have a really good social media following. People watch my career playing football, so I had something built in. And I think that people love stories, right? We have some fighters, man. We have a Julian Duckenfield, right? He's fighting on his card. Played football at Fullerton College, really good athlete, and really didn't get his shot at the NFL like he wanted to, even though he was a tremendous athlete. And, we're going to tell his story here soon. So I think it's a relatability, right, of someone having the opportunity, wanted to do something so bad and didn't get the opportunity. So I think for us, it's just really creating that connection because there's a lot of people that feel that same way out there.
How much do players, you think, these days talk about when they look at their options and maybe they're not long for the NFL or for whatever else it might be? How much do you think MMA is in people's minds nowadays as an alternative for, superb athletes like yourself who maybe don't have many years left to play or maybe it's just not working out the way they thought? What kind of a pivot move do you think that is now for athletes in their minds?
More than you know. And I'm waiting for a couple guys to finish up with the XFL and kind of get ready to get back into fight shape and going to take a few fights here. We're going to announce in the next couple of months or so. But now I think the opportunity is greater, right? When I retired in 2013, there was a couple of fights picked for me, and I was going to take them, but the money wasn't there. The opportunity wasn't there. Now guys are saying, you know what? Maybe my career is cut short. Maybe I don't have that opportunity like I had before. So let me transition into something else where I can still compete and use this God-given ability that I have to go and still compete at something. So there's a big transition that's taking place, a big crossover, and I can't wait for these guys to come in Lights Out Extreme Fight to do it.
Is there a chance, Sean, that one of these events could eventually reach the state of Texas?
Oh, no doubt about it. We've been in contact with several places in Texas, San Antonio being one, and Dallas being the second. We got some pictures from Houston, but there's such a big MMA crowd down in Texas, and there's a lot of great fighters that don't have opportunities to get on with a great promotion, with a great league to showcase their talent. And so when I do finally make it to Texas, I want to make it a 6-hour event, right? I mean, starting from amateurs, all these guys who got a chance to train and they want to be seen on TV. Like I said, when you have a great partner like Fubo and people can watch you everywhere, I want to give these guys an opportunity to perform.
Last thing, and we appreciate your time. The event, May the 6th, Saturday. It's on Fubo, the Los Angeles Marriott Burbank. Again, it's Lights Out. You mentioned Jay Glazer, who helped you get involved in this. And, of course, he's one of the great inside guys when it comes to NFL. He's discussed what he has been through with depression and very public. He has a platform like you had a platform. You've discussed that as well. How much more do you feel like people are able to share that and others understand it?
I think, for one, that Jay was very strong in doing that because when you have somebody as prominent as him with a big voice and saying that he went through it, then the people who aren't as big name or didn't have, everybody feels comfortable. Jay Glazer created this program that I'm a part of called MVP about, vets merging with players, right? Former veterans. And we work out for, half hour to an hour, and then we sit around and talk. And a lot of these former military guys and women who struggled, kind of making that transition to regular life. I mean, it is awesome. So, big props to Jay, but there's a lot of people out there struggling, and just know that you're not alone. You're not by yourself. I've dealt with it too, and I had plenty of things going, and a lot of things at one point. And from the outside, it looked like everything is great, and I went through it for a brief time myself. Just know you're not by yourself, and it's normal to feel that way sometimes.
Sean Merriman, Lights Out Extreme Fighting with us. The event, May the 6th, L.A. Marriott in Burbank. Sean, great stuff. Appreciate it. Fantastic growth of what you've been able to do with Lights Out, and congratulations on it.
Thanks, guys, and I appreciate it. Thanks
You too.
me.
Sean Merriman was a first-round pick, 12th overall pick out of Maryland by the San Diego Chargers, and three-time All-Pro, not Pro Bowl, three-time All-Pro. So there he is. Thanks for Josh Rimmer. We appreciate Josh for setting that up for us here on 365 Sports.
Yeah, there were some other things that we could potentially have jumped into with him. I know he had some comments about the Washington ownership offer that he lost out in a deal with. There you go. There's Sean's tweet where he apparently was involved in a business deal, and you can read it right there. Tried to get me for $3 million, took his ass to court, won $4 million. Owes a bunch of athletes money. The other owners will never approve this. And I Googled it, and there were a number of other athletes that this guy's been sued by or whatever, and he's had to pay money to. I know he apparently came out, I think. I haven't had time to look entirely, but I believe there was an article out today where he's kind of addressing some of that, I guess. But I don't know. I saw some weird comments, and I didn't want to go off like a line and pretend like I read it all. So I don't know like how in-depth Brian Davis or whatever got on some of the allegations, but I know there's been mixed reaction on what I saw. That's why I'm saying I need to read more about it. But it's interesting to see that sort of opinion coming from Merriman and others about their dealings with this guy.
He was the one that was going to do straight-up cash. The story, at least it appears, and there was an update last night that the money was from the Middle East, the sale of the Commanders to Josh Harris. Might not be
Brian Davis, Josh Harris, I guess.
Well, Brian Davis is the guy who's come in.
The sale of the Commanders to Josh Harris for $6 billion might not be finalized as previously reported. A $7 billion cash offer by Brian Davis, who's a D.C. native as well.
Okay.
Would make him the first ever NFL black owner. But yeah, Sean Merriman was very much no. Brian Davis doesn't have the funds. Tried to get me for $3 million, as Craig mentioned, won $4 million. Owes a bunch of athletes money. Other owners will never approve this.
Well, Brian Davis went on a radio show today to refute the Saudi money claim. And he said, that's not true. This is a direct quote. My financiers are white. They're Jewish, Italian, and Sicilian. By the way, Italian and Sicilian are kind of the same thing. But
oh, great. Now we're going to have all the Italians and Sicilians in our mentions arguing
so,
over those differences.
Well, look, as a Sicilian, I get that there's a
Are you an Italian Sicilian?
Yeah. We have a little bit of both, but mostly Sicilian. But, yeah, I think that, this is really his thing coming in at $7 billion was really shady. Here's the other thing that people kind of haven't mentioned in this. Bank of America had to vet all these offers, and if his offer was really legitimate, they would have vetted it, and he probably would have been the winner. Because that's Bank of America was hired by the Snyders to vet all these offers. Brian Davis, I think, is just has the potential to be loud and is doing that.
I thought
who would be the winner?
Josh Harris.
Josh Harris.
Yeah,
okay.
he's the guy who's probably going to do it.
And you know why I trust Josh Harris, and without ever knowing him, ever meeting him, but because he's also owned other professional franchises, and they all seem like he was a part of Philadelphia. Remember, trust the process with Embiid and all that. Look where they are now. And it seems to be working out, plus the hockey franchise, too. There was one more thing I was going to say about the buy. You know, if you're Dan Snyder and someone's going to offer you $7 billion cash, that's the one you want, but that may not be the right one for Washington, and especially if there's anything that they're a little bit concerned about with how it is put together. So, all right, it's 5 o'clock, 5:03. We do not have John Machota, but we do have Jacob Unruh, who could probably join us a little bit early who covers Oklahoma State for the Oklahoman. And we'll discuss to Jacob what we kind of figured out with that article, with the schedule, along with who are they? Do they know? Do they have an identity yet? What's going on with Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State coming off what was a season very similar with what Baylor went through, with a couple of other schools in the Big 12 went through. This is 365 Sports. We've received nominations from Central Texas high school counselors for the 13th annual Academic All-Stars team. The selection process underway to find the elite student athletes. Hi, this is David Smoak. Nominations include student athletes who thrive and succeed in both academic and athletic competition. We'll select a 20-member team this month and announce the Academic All-Stars team on Monday, May 1st.
The 2022-23 Academic All-Star team is brought to you by Texas Farm Bureau Insurance, Westdale Asset Management, Southwest Sports Medicine, Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram, Ray Broker AC, Alliance Bank, HEB, the McLean Group, Universal Windows Direct, Hal Whitaker and Louis Englander Scholarship Fund, IdealMRI.com, Bubba's 33, the Baylor Club, and our 501c3, the Waco Foundation.
We'll honor the 13th annual Academic All-Stars team at our annual banquet Wednesday, May 17th at the Baylor Club inside McLean Stadium. We're proud to recognize the elite student athletes in Greater Central Texas and be involved with this program. It's the 13th annual Academic All-Stars team right here on 365 Sports.
It's Ram Truck Month at Allen Samuels in Waco, and the deals couldn't be any hotter. Get a new 2023 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with values up to $4,250 plus 4.9% for 72 months. Or get a new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star Crew Cab with 1.9% for 72 months or 10% off MSRP. That's right. Come pick from the best selection of brand new inventory in Central Texas at Allen Samuels in Waco while supplies last.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543. Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. Nachos and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel & Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel & Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel & Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
This is 365 Sports. Are you a Sikkim 365 superfan? Then try out our premium subscriptions at Sikkim365.com.
Back to one of the articles we referred to earlier in the show about those schools who have had 5-star players and how many have actually been drafted in the NFL. Doesn't mean they were stars. Doesn't mean first round, but any of the rounds. And that Stanford hit 5 of their 6 5-stars. The top 10 again included Clemson, A&M, Miami. This is from 2009 to 2015, 2009 to 2019, including the draft from 12 to 22. Bama, Florida, Penn State, Ohio State, Georgia, and Florida State. It's still, you look at the numbers, and Bama has had 44 5-stars during that time. And then we discussed the programs who struggled, who had 5 stars that they didn't, it just didn't become NFL talent. Texas and Oklahoma at the top. 29 overall between the two and 7 hit. Auburn, Tennessee, Notre Dame also a part of that list.
And Oklahoma's were quarterbacks.
Were they really?
I mean, I would think so.
Uh-huh.
If they were Kyler Murray and Baker Mayfield wasn't a 5-star, but Jalen Hurts, I guess, would have been a 4. But yeah, Kyler Murray is at least
Williams
one of those.
Is not on that because it was
so maybe it's not. But yeah, I start thinking about those Oklahoma quarterbacks. But then you throw the 5-star in there, so yeah, I guess it would have been just one of them. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see the actual list of players and who made it and who didn't, rather than like 6 of 22. Okay, who were the 6 and who were the 16 that didn't make it? A little bit more of a breakdown would be useful to have a little bit more of that conversation.
The most successful at taking 4 stars and they get to the draft, Baylor, among that time period, had 38% hit, 29 4-stars, 11 hit in the NFL, or at least were drafted. But then you look at the numbers again. Miami had 88, 31 hit. LSU, 142 4-stars, 49th, 48, that's third. Ohio State, Alabama, 4 and 5. Notre Dame, NC State, Georgia, Clemson, and then Utah, which, of course, creates what that great program and what they do to cultivate talent along the way, had 22 4-stars and 6 of them hit. But the number for my favorite program that was the worst, 67 4-stars in that time period, and 3 of them made it to the NFL, were drafted in the NFL. Texas had 146 4-stars, 17 of them were drafted into the NFL. A&M at 108 4-stars, 13 of them drafted into the NFL.
See, I think that's where that's where the stars do matter, and then they don't matter in some ways, because it does matter where you go and get developed, and it does matter that there are intangibles outside of just the athletic ability. Now, I understand you can't account for that, so I don't blame the websites for those not panning out, but you get hit over the head with how much those rankings matter, and they do. But the reason why there's another side of that pops up sometimes is because you see stats like that, and there's like 80 guys who didn't pan out versus like 10. I mean, you can polish that up and see like 75% of 4-stars or whatever, but that's still an alarmingly low percentage of guys at your disposal. And I understand it's hard to make it to the NFL, but yeah, I mean, development matters as much as anything. You can get all the number 1 classes you want, but if you don't have the right mindset, players, and all that goes with that, then it doesn't guarantee you anything. It doesn't guarantee you a national championship. It might not even guarantee you a conference championship. So yeah, I think the development part is as equal. I mean, you got to get them on campus first. That's more important. But then once you do, like, you have to develop them. And as you can see from those numbers, some have been far better at it than others. And that's a testament to, I'll tell you this, if you're Nebraska, the Baylor numbers are a testament to 3 different coaches. And at this point, not even, I mean, Aranda had most of his guys for like a year, and they had Matt Rule's, leftovers, basically. The J.T. Woodses and the Jalen Petries and the Abram Smiths and all those guys.
Terrell Bernard, yeah.
Nebraska fans are going to have a lot of NFL draft watching to do. I'll tell them that one thing, I don't know how many games they're going to win. I don't know if they'll ever, go play for a Big Ten title, at least in the next, few years. But I wouldn't put it past Matt Rule because he's a great coach, but he's got a great eye for talent, and they develop guys. And so you will see within, I'd say, and with a transfer portal, maybe even shave a year off, but within 3 years, I would think, if not 2, you'll start to see like an average of like 5 guys a year that you're probably talking about in the NFL draft with what he's going to have at his disposal to recruit as well.
And part of that is they practice like NFL teams practice. They'll do that. I mean, that helps because when guys start playing in games and start doing things that scouts go, that transitions well.
You know, and I remember when he first started and they were terrible. And then they took Oklahoma to the brink about week 4, 5, or 6, or 8, whatever it was. But they were not good. They lost to Liberty, lost to, who was it, UTSA. They were terrible. But you could see it churning. You could see it changing about midway. They played their guts out. You knew you played them. But he used to say, trust the process. And then many Baylor fans got sick of that. And a lot of others made fun of that were fans of other programs. Okay. And then you saw the process start to turn, and then you saw what it led to, and then also led to with what part of Dave Aranda's team that was so good in 2021. Ohio State had the best percentage of 3 stars who eventually were drafted. LSU, Alabama, Florida, and Oklahoma, top 5. Let's see, the bottom 10. Kansas had 203 3-stars, and 6 of them were drafted. Iowa State, 222, 7 of them drafted. Kansas State, 200, 9 of them drafted were among the teams with the least percentage of 3-star players.
3 Big 12 teams.
Yeah.
You wonder why the draft. So Texas
in those
hasn't
numbers.
been producing people at the rate that they probably should be based on recruiting rankings. Oklahoma, even with their high draft picks and quarterbacks, hasn't been producing to the levels they probably should. So there's your 2 biggest schools, and then you got 3 of them that are just dragging the bottom down with like a 0.05% return on investment. So there's half your league. So basically 5 other teams are having to prop up everybody else, and that's how we'll be just sitting there in May or April and going, wow, it's not fair to compare directly to the SEC, but we'll see inevitably the conference totals. And you don't ever hear mentioned, well, the Big 12's got like 2 to 4 less teams than other people. Well, even if you average it out, they still have less most of the time. Why is that? Well, half the league's not producing the way they should be. So, they'll lose Texas just as they're probably starting to hit their stride again. So that's unfortunate. Oklahoma will be a loss in that department, even if it's not, again, at the rate that you'd like it to be at year in and year out. But, yeah, I know Cincy's had recent success. BYU's, had some folks. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what those NFL numbers look like moving forward with the new incarnation of the league, not this year, but in the years that follow. All
right, when we come back, and you have to say this, and the rivals and the On3 and 247, they all do they bust their butts to get this information. But when you look at this, it does also make you wonder, the stars and the players they get are probably really good in high school. Can you cultivate them or turn them into whatever they need to be when they get on campus? But also, how many of those stars are also associated because of the name that's on the jersey?
Well, the formulas can't determine a guy's personality, right?
No.
Can't mathemize that, or I think I just made up that word. You can't, mathematically figure out if a guy's going to get in trouble. I think you have to use your gut instinct or whatever to know who's going to pan out and who doesn't. And clearly, it's an inexact science, but. Yeah, that's something you can have all the formulas and testing numbers and whatever else you want, but there's still that human element, and some are just better about, I guess, identifying that. But it's still hard for everybody because especially when you just have athletes who are so great, it's worth the risk, right? Well, we can be the school. There's just a lot of things that go into that. So, yeah, it's a complex process, the recruiting successes and defeats.
Jacob Unruh on Oklahoma State is next. This is 365 Sports. Ideal MRI in the Central Texas marketplace in the southern part of Waco, just off of I-35. It is a place that I have been 4 times because of things that I needed seen inside of my body. My lower back, my shoulder, also my abdomen, and then prostate. Recently had an MRI. I was in the machine a week ago, Monday. Marcus was phenomenal. Stephanie and Teresa at the front desk made it so comfortable. And I went through it. I did it. And I'm claustrophobic. And sometimes they even ask you, hey, by the way, if you're claustrophobic, make sure you tell your doctor. They can sometimes give you, medicine or something to calm you down. But never a problem. Marcus was fantastic. Talked me through the process. Didn't take long. Got on the table. Got me in. Put headsets on, headphones on. And also I had a mask like something you'd wear if you want to fall asleep with no light. And the process there, that word process, it was so comfortable. And this was like a 40-something minute MRI with one break in between, not to let me come up for air, but for them to put dye in my system so they could trace it for what they were looking for. And thank God everything came back clear. But if it's your knee, if it's your shoulder, if it's your back, if it's your abdomen, whatever it might be, and you need an MRI, your doctor suggests one, you then say, hey, ideal MRI. If you live in Houston or Dallas or in Austin or San Antonio and you need an MRI, we've had stories of people who have driven up here because the cost is only $497 or less. They will help you with your insurance too. It's an amazing place. Dr. Rob Maxey, one of our very first sponsors to join us on 365 Sports 3+ years ago, idealmri.com.
Richard Carr is loaded with GMC Sierra trucks. Make your best deal in years. Step up to premium grade GMC Sierra and save thousands at Richard Carr. Right now, qualified buyers get 2.9% financing and $3,000 in savings on most new 2023 GMC Sierra SLE, SLT 1500s in stock. Call now, get here now, or log on to richardcarr.com and drive home your new GMC Sierra today. See dealer for details.
Richard Carr, they have the truck for you.
Don's Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don's Humidor in the Townwood Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, locally owned pizza place that's out of this world. Everything from the dough, the sauce, the sausage topping is made fresh in-house. Not to mention the amazing pizza pillows, the chicken wings are to die for. Try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, or tots, plus great specials on food and drink every single day. Shorty's is also the perfect spot to watch the game with your friends. Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby. Tell them Paul sent you by.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
The future's bright, the time is now.
College is what you make it. It's a late night pizza run and all-nighters coding a new project. It's having big dreams and making them a reality. It's a professor who knows your name and your story. It's preparation for your future, your calling, your life. And at Baylor, it's even more. Baylor, where lights shine bright.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financials, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Brad Wilson. Investing his time and experience back to you and your money during today's changing times. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Here we go, 365 Sports, as we have tried to tour everybody within the Big 12, the incoming, the 14 teams, the 4 new ones, and the others who are still here in Texas and Oklahoma for at least, well, for one more year before they move on. Jacob Unruh, the Oklahoman, joins us on Oklahoma State football. Jacob, thanks for your time. There's probably been, not that everybody hasn't had roster attrition or whatever, but there does seem to be a major facelift at Oklahoma State. How have they, or how has that helped, hurt, or how they reacted to that during spring workouts?
You know, they're really positive around there, and you know, it could be all doom and gloom on the outside looking in, but Mike Gunning, his staff, never seemed to panic and had a plan of action and went and got, you know, Alan Bowman, Texas Tech, Michigan transfer, and to go be a veteran presence at quarterback. They really like what they've seen from him, and they go and replenish the running back. They go and get some more receivers that are talented, and new defensive coordinator. They're excited about that and switching to a 3-3-5, and they like where they're at. You know, it's, you know, as Mike says, it's hard to tell right now how good they're exactly going to be because, you know, it's not August yet, and there's not a lot of hitting going on and stuff like that. But they feel better. You know, the offensive line's gotten healthier and got some new guys up there too, and so you know, they never really, you know, they let all, you know, as everything kind of swirled around them, they just stuck with their plan, and Mike stuck with his vision.
So was there ever any time of tension of like, oh crap, we've lost all these starters, or was it just, oh well, this is the nature of the beast?
And, you know, I don't think they enjoyed it per se, but I think they understood that this is where college football is going. College athletics in general, really, with the portal, and you know, that they had to just, I mean, move on and move forward, and they did, you know, seem to do a good job of that for the most part, and you know, it's, you know, we didn't get to talk to Mike since the bowl game until spring practice started, and so it's hard to say really what kind of happened in the middle of that, but you know, they seem to go out and get players they really like, and the players that fit their system, and as they're changing some things too offensively, but they, you know, when you talk to people now looking back, no one ever really has said, oh crap, you know, we're in trouble here. Instead it was, all right, we got to go to work again. So.
Jacob, not to dwell on the portal, because there are definitely other things to ask about here, but they did just this week have the departure of Caleb Etienne, and I know that Gundy talked about that, and I guess felt like he had lost his job there and wanted to move on to BYU. Can you take us into that room and kind of what that means, and how much of a surprise was that? What does that do to the depth, for example, all those kinds of things?
You know, I don't know. I guess the surprise factor was that, you know, he might be losing his job, but also the guy that's taking his job is hurt this spring, and Dalton Cooper, the Texas State transfer. So I don't, like, there had to be some pretty heavy writing on the wall there for Caleb to realize that he was, you know, going to lose his job. But, you know, and I think OSU feels really good about Dalton Cooper and what he brings. And, you know, I don't think there's any hesitancy with that there. And I think this just really just kind of hurts some depth in a way. And a guy that has experience, because just the week before, you know, Mike was talking about how they have, you know, 6 to 8 to 10 guys that they felt like they could go and put out there and on the line. They haven't had that much depth in a few years now, and they feel like they had guys that can go out there and really help. And you know, that's just one less guy that could do it. That, you know, started and played in all 13 games last season. You know, that hurts in that regard, but you know, they went right around and filled it by grabbing a JUCO guy for the 2023 class that they feel really good about, that might be able to come and make an impact. And so, you know, they're not wasting time with keeping that depth as much as they can.
Do you feel like because at the quarterback position with the transfer that he knows the Big 12? How much do you think that might help, if at all?
I think it helps, but OSU's got an interesting schedule this year. They're not playing a lot of the traditional Big 12 teams. So I don't know how much helps when they're not playing Texas or Texas Tech or Baylor or TCU. None of them are on OSU's schedule this fall. So I think it helps. I think really they just wanted a veteran guy because, Garrett Rangel got some time last year as Spencer Sanders was hurt, but he was a true freshman. So he's been on campus for a year now, and you like what you see, but you want that veteran guy. And Zane Flores, their incoming true freshman quarterback, is here, and they really like him, but they don't want to put him in that same situation. And Gunnar Gundy's coming off elbow surgery, and so it's kind of a thing where you get that veteran guy in there that if you can keep him upright and healthy, can really make a difference and help these other guys grow in the 1 year he can be there.
So I think we probably talked about it a little bit at the time, and we've seen certainly some of the reaction from Oklahoma State fans and our forums and all that, but what has been sort of the overall general reaction to who's missing on this upcoming schedule, and no Texas, no Baylor, no Texas Tech, no TCU? How have fans kind of taken to that?
I think the fans are a little more upset than OSU was. It's mostly a 1 year deal. Obviously, I think it'll get back to some Texas schools on there once OU and Texas leave for the Big 12. I think that's going to get some more back on there. But Mike Gundy, I asked him about it this last week, and he said basically he wasn't too concerned about it. It is what it is. But he said also that I asked about the recruiting aspect of it too, because they obviously recruit Texas pretty heavily. And, he said that could be a concern. He said, but he's also learned that these athletes don't really care. They don't really ask anymore about that, the way the sport has gone and stuff. Families aren't as concerned. Families maybe a little more concerned, but, the athletes themselves don't really worry too much if they're going to be back home playing in Texas as much. And so, they're not worried. I think it got blown up a little more outside of that since the fan base is used to easy trips like that. And that's the hard part of this OSU schedule is for the fans, the travel is really less than ideal. Because you've got trips to Ames, Orlando, Houston, and I'm going blank on another one.
Brigham Young?
No, BYU actually comes to Stillwater. They got lucky there. So they got to go to Tempe for a non-conference game. There's just not that easy drive to Texas. Houston's obviously further south, and so there's just not that normal drive that they get to make to go down to Texas, and West Virginia is the other one I'm thinking of. You got West Virginia. There's a lot of flights. There's not as easy drives, and so I can see where the fans are coming from in that regard.
So Mike Gundy has been consistent. He's sustained his winning. His record's really good. 156 and 75. They're always in the mix. Last year, like Baylor, it just did not work out about the midway point. Has he ever discussed what went wrong? I know they were young and they had injuries and all that. Don't get me wrong, but did he ever kind of just somehow look at what actually went wrong?
He points to the injuries and stuff when you ask him, and I think some of it was schemes. I think, when you look at the writing on the wall, the way they're changing things this season, they've gone back to a more traditional blocking scheme up front. They're going to run downhill more. They're going to try to play more power football. They're going traditional tight ends and fullbacks instead of just the cowboy back, which is a hybrid position of that. I think that's kind of an answer too, because when they started losing injuries, they lost Spencer Sanders, and when they lost some of the receivers to injuries, and even a couple offensive linemen here and there, they didn't have the ability to go and run the ball downhill. They didn't have the ability to go and just slow things down and go do what they did. They were built to throw the ball, and I think that scheme right there really hurt them. They were pleased most part for the defense, but Gundy really likes the 3-3-5, and going against it's been very difficult for them. So I think he brings that in now to answer some defensive questions he had to, and to kind of change some things up and go with what he thinks is a new trend and the way things are going. And so, but I think really it boils down to that offense and how that offense just had that inability to run the ball mostly when they're healthy too, but they had Spencer Sanders around to cover it up, and then it really got exposed when they didn't have Spencer Sanders around.
Jacob, and I don't know, this is just a vibe I get from guys like Dabo Swinney and Mike Gundy, who are old school coaches trying to transition into the new reality of college football. Do you ever get the vibe that, like, Mike Gundy might just get tired of this and go, you know what, I've made a ton of money, I'm going fishing?
We've asked him that, and he always says no. He's having the time of his life. He loves it. He's more energized than ever. I think the Fiesta Bowl season in 2021 really fired him up and really got him going again. Last year was obviously a drag at the end, but before that they were a top 10 team halfway through the season, and so I don't know. I mean, he seems adaptable to the portal. They're using it pretty well from what I could tell, and he's always been a guy that's kind of ahead on that too, because they always utilize the grad transfers and things like that before more than a lot of teams did. He was open to all that stuff too. So I don't think it's necessarily going to run him away. I think what's going to run him away is if he just decides he's just tired and wants to stop. But I don't see that happening anytime soon necessarily with him.
Jacob, know you got to run, but no spring game because of stadium construction. But what have been the early returns on Brian Nardo there as defensive coordinator?
Everyone's fired up on him. We got to talk to him this week. Super personable guy. Obviously, they got him from the Division II level at a school that a lot of people don't know about up Northeast. But they like what he's brought. He's a good people person. I guess he sat down with Gundy on his interview, not realizing entirely it was a job interview. So he's just going to teach Gundy about 3-3-5 defense and move on down the road. And instead, Gundy offered him the job after he taught him for hours about this defense and the schemes and everything about it. And so it's everyone's fired up about it, and it plays into OSU's hands a little bit. Now you're moving Colin Oliver to linebacker, you're moving Kendall Daniels to rover safety. Your two most athletic, best defenders in key positions, and but everyone likes what Nardo does. He's very good at teaching the system, and they like the way he goes about teaching it to people and helping people, because he's not necessarily a guy who is going to yell and berate players and stuff. He's a guy that's going to be firm with them and embrace them and help them, and I think they really like what they've seen of him so far, by all accounts.
Well, 3-3-5, that's what Oklahoma State's bringing to the table. Tony White at Nebraska from Matt Rule. I read where they were going to go 3-3-5, so it's starting to be something that's catching on. Mm-hmm. Jacob, really good stuff, man. We appreciate it. Thank you so much for being a part of the show.
All right, thanks for having me.
Jacob Unruh, the Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. So many different storylines with them. Interesting to see how they come out and what they do. Arizona State, we mentioned earlier, a game they have, and the fact that they're not playing TCU, Baylor, Texas, or Texas Tech, somewhat unique. And I wouldn't have known that or thought about that until I had read the article, the column in the Oklahoman by Barry Trammell.
I do think that it's good for us to have Oklahoma State writers on, maybe more than some other ones, because some coaches, like, I don't need a Nick Saban translator. I know what Nick Saban's talking about. I know what his vibe is. I need a bit of a Gundy translator. I think I need one on Dabo too, because they're, to me, like I said, kind of cut from the same cloth in the way that they mention things. And sometimes, to me, it sounds like they're more stressed out than they might be, but we're not there every day, And so Gundy, is one of those guys that, like, you look at things going on and, like, from the outside, you're like, man, like, it is raining poo there in Stillwater. And then really it's just an adjustment, at least from the perspective of the people who cover it. And we'll see how it works out on the field for them this year.
A lot of that is because, and the guy's been really good at Oklahoma State, the continuity, even at times if there's been flirtation elsewhere. But it's all because of what happened earlier in his career with I'm a man, I'm 40. And so now he's kind of someone where people pick and choose what they show from his press conferences. And I think that might lead to perhaps a little overreaction.
And I think then everybody jumped on the OAN T-shirt and automatically just completely, ruled him, 10 to nothingness because of that simple act. Because now they know his politics. Now they know him as a person. Now they know everything about him, and they hate him, and they don't, care about him or whatever, or vice versa. They love him even more. But I just know he caught a lot of flack for that. And so, there's things about his personality that aren't necessarily, they don't necessarily sit well with certain media. So I do think he has a little bit of a target on his back, and he's one of those guys that, everybody complains about people not being truthful and open and honest, and then he speaks, and it's like, oh, you don't want people to be truthful and open and honest. You just want people to say what you want to hear. And you don't agree with what he has to always say, so then you want to react and then paint him in a light, and, and I think there's certain elements of that going on as well. And you know what? I'm not saying you should agree with everything, but he's just being who he is, for better or worse, whether you like it or not, and that's, to me, Mike Gundy. I don't think it's a real big riddle or anything. I think the guy's just who he is, and sometimes he might go into a little bit more of a shell because what he has to say gets backlash right away. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I think he's certainly stepped in it when he didn't need to, like wearing that shirt in the picture and coming out. That was stupid. In hindsight, the I'm a man, I'm 40, I don't think that was really stupid. I think that was just blown out of proportion, quite frankly, and we didn't really see a lot of coaches reacting like that necessarily. I think he's a great coach. I don't know about how he is behind the scenes or whatever, but I do think he's a really good coach, and he gets a lot of unnecessary flack, and some of it he brings on himself, and that's what you got out there in Stillwater right now.
Who's the longest tenured head coach in college football? Is it Saban? Who? Huh?
He hasn't been there as long as Gundy's been at Oklahoma State.
No, I'm talking about overall. Coaching as a head coach.
And he wouldn't have been there. He wouldn't be Saban because he hadn't been there as long as Gundy's been at Oklahoma State, right?
Saban was at Michigan State before LSU.
So you're talking about at one place or overall?
No, overall.
Okay,
and there may be, I'm sure there's somebody, like a Fisher DeBerry used to be, or Bowden or Osborne, and there's got to be somebody that I'm just blanking on.
Well, look, he's but the point is
he's got to be one of the most longest tenured coaches in college football.
Yeah, and look, the OAN T-shirt was a dumb thing. It wasn't the right time. It was a terrible response on it too. The way he said it, because it was a please make this go away response, as opposed to getting and addressing it with clearly. Look, he has to have had with his players at this point. It's been 3 years since that happened, but Mike Gundy's odd. He's different. Like, he's just different. And
isn't that refreshing?
I guess it depends.
Sometimes,
but he is someone that he's different. You don't understand. The I'm a man, I'm 40 thing was the reason it was wrong and bad. It was probably not the forum to do it, to yell at one reporter in front of everybody. There's better ways to do that, but it happened. It was out there.
I also think if it would have been a Saban or someone like that, then it's also looked at differently. Yeah. I think the fact that he was kind of a young punk kid, almost in some ways too, is like, who's this ratty little boy up there? I do feel like there was probably something like, who's this guy think he is up there yelling at the podium? And all these years later, I mean, he's obviously a far more respected and polished ball coach who probably wouldn't find himself in that situation again. But yeah, I do think there was some element of that too. Like, who does this guy think he is, and why is he yelling? But I don't know. He's not that complicated to me. I just think it's, he doesn't fit the box that everybody necessarily wants him to fit.
All right, longest tenured coaches: Kirk Ferentz at Iowa, 1; Kyle Whittingham at Utah; Mike Gundy at Oklahoma State; Rick Stockstill at Middle Tennessee State. Now these are, let's see,
at one
school, because Saban has been at Alabama now like 16 or 17 years. I couldn't find the list that actually, I would think Ferentz and Saban have to be a part.
Whereas Saban had a 2-year sojourn or however long it was in the NFL too.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. So he was with the Dolphins for a little while and then left. So,
I guess so with Saban. Okay, now remember when we had the discussion about the 5 stars in Barkley and Garrett Gilbert and more in that same class of 2009 National Signing Day class? How about these for bangers? Remember Russell Shepard, Cy Ridge out of the Houston area?
Do you?
Who was supposed to be like
Garrett?
the next Vince Young for LSU? How did that work out, Garrett?
Well, it didn't work out like Vince. I know that much.
Tyreek Rollison, who is someone that I covered very heavily when he was at Sulphur Springs. They won a state championship, put up massive numbers, was a phenomenal player. Committed to Auburn, signed with Auburn. That didn't work out. He bounced around and I think went to 2 or 3 schools and maybe even ended up at a junior college from Sulphur Springs High School. Though Taj Boyd went to Clemson. Was he pretty good, Paul, at Clemson?
Yeah.
Okay?
Taj Boyd, yeah.
So of those guys, Barkley, Gilbert, Taj Boyd, Russell Shepard, Tyreek Rollison, the 5 highest rated quarterbacks in that class, I would think Taj Boyd had the best of the careers.
Yeah, Taj Boyd was good.
When did Dabo take over at Clemson?
I mean, he played for Dabo.
Okay.
He played for Dabo.
Because he was interim in the late.
Taj Boyd was the one where, like, oh, man, Dabo can get guys. And then Taj, I don't think, had the people around him yet.
No, he didn't have the same crew.
He didn't have the same crew. And then it was Deshaun Watson and that group together that was like, okay,
yep.
This guy's not messing around. Taj still got some of that when people used to say Clemsoning, and that was just because they didn't have the dudes. Like, they were good enough to beat most of the teams in the ACC, but then, they weren't going to beat FSU then. They weren't going to, if they play, a good team from another league, one of the top 3 teams in another league, they're probably going to lose that game, but they were winning all the other ones, and then they just needed that step, and Dabo certainly made it happen there and has completely flipped the script in the ACC since then. So,
yeah, I keep thinking about Russell Shepard and just what a star he was supposed to be and how Texas fans were just infatuated with the guy, and LSU was too, and it's another, it was like Ryan Perrilloux. That was another LSU win over Texas there for, star athlete quarterback. And that one didn't work out very well either ultimately. But, yeah, Russell Shepard, I remember, I can, picture his rivals recruiting picture in my head. I remember seeing his profile so many times back in the day and following his path to ultimately Baton Rouge. But, yeah, he was a big-time high school prospect. I remember that vividly.
All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5. Garrett Ross today has been in studio. Emery Winter today in studio. And, of course, back at it again tomorrow at 3 and then Friday at 3. Spring game for Baylor around noon on Saturday. Sports tonight at 10:30 on the CW. This is 365 Sports. Waco Custom Marketplace. Here are the specials for this week, 425 Lake Air Drive. They have a full-service butcher shop and bakery. Here are the specials, though, for you. Select New York strip steak at $8.99 a pound. Pork steak at $1.99 a pound. Bacon ends and pieces, $2.75 a pound. And country-style ribs at $1.89 a pound. Chicken leg quarters at 65 cents per pound. Ring bologna at $4.50 a pound. And ground beef tallow at $1 a pound. Waco Custom Marketplace. You can order what you want, beef, pork, poultry, and seafood. You can get what you need with canned goods, pasta, chips, marinades, seasonings, sauces, what you need. They have it. Fresh baked bread, fresh baked kolaches, cold beer, cold wine, and there's a coffee thing that you can drive around, and get some coffee in the morning if you want it. They have it right there at a drive-through window. Brian Bauer and the Bauer family do it well. They do it really, really well, and they also are distributing what they have to restaurants around the Waco area and even up in Dallas and Fort Worth. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive in Waco. Aaron Duvall, owner, Texas Beef House. Why did you get into this business?
We kind of were born into it, and it's been for several generations. Our family's been in the beef business, the ranching business, and we've specifically got into the beef business back in about 2015 when me and my son decided to form Texas Beef House and sell directly to the public.
Aaron, everyone knows about Wagyu and how elite that is when it comes to beef. What separates you from anyone else that may do this in this type profession?
We selected out Wagyu mainly because it's such a quality beef and it's consistent. Some beef, some breeds, you may have a good animal every now and then, but Wagyu produces really consistently good beef every time.
Where is the best beef in Texas? Your house. When you order from Texas Beef House, unleash the flavor of Texas raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Boozers is the wedding ring store and more. If you're ready to get engaged or already married and want to upgrade your wife's ring for a special anniversary, Boozers is the place to go. With the largest selection of premier quality diamond engagement rings and wedding rings in Central Texas. They have 7 cases with over 300 styles of rings from top designers like Natalie Kay. Choose from yellow, white, or rose gold, plus beautiful top quality loose diamonds. With an in-house jewelry, they can also custom make anything you want. Bring in a picture or drawing and let Boozers create your one-of-a-kind pendant or ring. They can even use some of your old gold and diamond jewelry to create something new. At Boozers, you'll find a great selection of quality timepieces, and Boozers is the place for expert watch maintenance and repairs too. They specialize in expert Rolex watch repair for fine jewelry, watches, custom work, and more. Go to Boozers on Valley Mills and Lake Air Drive in Waco.
Boozers, the wedding ring store and more.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
It's time for Paul Catalina's Top 5, brought to you by Texas Beef House. Where's the best beef in Texas? Your house when you order from Texas Beef House. Unleash the flavor of Texas-raised Wagyu. From our pasture to your plate, TexasBeefHouse.com.
One quick note on them. They are supplying Blake Blackmar with a couple of 5-pound Wagyu briskets for that cook-off they're having, the letter winners cook-off on Friday night, Saturday the competition at McLean Stadium.
Is that a good contact that you've made between them, or do you think that they're going to get tired of hearing from him?
I think,
or that Blake will eventually bankrupt himself.
No, I think both. Blake said I'd really like to get to know him, and I'm like, man, I don't know if that's a good idea. But Aaron Duvall's been great. He's going to supply a couple of briskets for Blake for this week. Friday night there's a letter winners get together. Dave Aranda, the coaches, former coaches and players. It's not open to the public. They then have a bunch of cooking. They have a competition, the judging on Saturday. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, top 5 non-P5 players in the transfer portal. I do like this logo that Emory's come up with for the portal. That is like what Thanos popped through.
Looks like Hypnotoad.
Yeah, maybe a little bit, yeah. So that's going to be our official 365 Sports portal logo from now on. But these are guys who are getting a ton of, and I got one of the positions wrong, and I admit that now, seeing this to you now.
The slump continues.
But I'll correct it when I did. I'm acknowledging it before. Just a little typo when I was correcting this and making it look pretty to send it to Emory. But number 5, cornerback Antonio Carter II out of Rhode Island. This is someone that Baylor has some interest in and, is on their radar, is getting a lot of play. And this is one of the more interesting things about the portal. I mean, it's great for some of these guys who can maybe play up a level, but it's not great for the schools that they're leaving. But on the other side of that coin, a lot of times the schools that are leaving do benefit about the guys who have not made it on the P5 level. But Antonio Carter, really good player, tall, can, 6 feet, 200 pounds, maybe a little taller than that. A corner that can get the long extension out on people. Curious to see where he goes. Got a lot of offers, and I do think that Baylor is in the mix on him. We'll see how much in the mix that is down the line, but someone to keep your eye on.
Yeah, so a prime example of a guy going up to where he probably should be and should have been, or at least should be right now as far as competition level. And I think that's where people kind of lose sight sometimes of the portal. They go, oh, he's jumping up, he's going to make money and all that. Poor Rhode Island, but I mean, maybe he needs to be playing in the Big 12 or the SEC or the ACC, all due respect, and make a buck while he's doing it as well. It's a great time to be a guy who could potentially be a starter on the next level because you're getting bags thrown at you, especially, offensive line. But I'd imagine that at the secondary spots as well, that there's a lot of need. And I know Baylor right now still needs some more defensive backs, so that's part of why they're in on him. But just in the last 24 hours, Oregon State, Indiana, Wisconsin, South Florida, and Iowa have all offered, and that's just in the last 24 hours amongst many, many others, A&M, West Virginia, Baylor, SMU, so on and so forth. So, yeah, he's got attention from all over.
A&M, who's already signed 3 transfer portal defensive backs.
Well, they lost all of them, right?
Yeah, exactly. So
the kid from Boston College yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 4, Juriente Davis from a linebacker from Jackson State. This is a guy who's been a couple places. This might be his 3rd school, or maybe his 4th. I don't know. He is a grad transfer there. Curious to see if he goes with Dion this time, but going to be sought after. Linebacker's an odd position right now, and because of the way the 3-3-5 has kind of changed things, the way the spread has kind of changed things, there's not a whole lot of your classic 6'4", 225 to 245, 250 linebackers anymore. It's all, it's all different.
Hybrids, athletes?
Yeah, hybrids, athletes are what you're looking for. So here's a guy that'll be sought after coming up, from the HBCUs and the FCS level. He's got some offers as well. Max Olson had him ranked as like the 13th or 14th best player in the portal right now. So,
yeah, the only thing about that is, it's good. It's good. I'm not complaining about how they do it. It's just there's a difference in being the current 13th ranked best guy and what were you overall since the portal opened up. You know what I mean? Because there's like 17 number ones because it keeps turning into a new guy. But yeah, this is the wave to be a part of. Besides, right after the season, as far as attention goes, I know Oklahoma offered. He visited A&M already, and he's going to go visit Dion as well. So that Jackson State connection could very well come into play. It'll be fascinating to see what the turnover is ultimately at Colorado by the time they reach their first game next year. Like, how many guys on that roster will have been there the year before, I wonder, because it's got to be –
I think they've already, since the portal opened, they've already, sent 10 guys in.
Yeah.
It feels like, so.
So, yeah, I'm sure he's going to bring – we know he already brought some guys over, but, yeah, maybe another one from Jackson State.
Yeah, absolutely. Number 3, Varkey's Gums, tight end from North Texas. Baylor's already got one tight end from North Texas in Roberts. Here's another one coming out, which kind of surprises you. When you lose one, you lose another. But Varkey's Gums trying to find his way up to the P5 level. He's got a lot of offers. Long, tall, every kind of build you want from a tight end here from Gums. And, I'm sure – I think about everybody in the Big 12's called him.
Yeah, I think maybe Baylor could do without at this point with their tight end room, just because I was looking at it last night. They've got 5 or 6 guys. So I don't know, maybe they'd add another guy, but maybe that also rules them out. However, BYU's offered, Oregon offered in the last couple of days. I know those are 2 recent ones. And, it's, interesting to see all of the departures from North Texas. I have to ask Phil Bennett about that at some point. But Seth Luttrell's gone, so, they had a good run, and guys are taking advantage of their opportunities. And, that sucks for fans in Denton, but that's also kind of the reality. And you just wonder if that's also going to become the reality at most everywhere else outside of about 30, 40 places. Yeah. And that's the big fear. Is, hey, you get them, you develop them, you turn them into stars, get them to where they need to be, and then – right as they're about to be at their best, and then you can really maximize it, they're headed elsewhere, and that's frustrating.
All right, so the larger schools or others get him. North Texas raids who? Tarleton, SFA?
Well,
I guess so.
But the other thing is
there are teams.
But there are people that will come down, though, too.
No, that's a great, there you go.
So there are people that will come down.
Yeah.
So, the thing is that's
they're not doing it at the height of their powers.
Yeah, but it's also not doing it at the same time. So if you think about if what the schools like North Texas are worried about is they don't want to be AAA ball for the P5.
Like UTSA with what Trader.
Yeah, they don't want that. They don't want that. They want to have their guys and be able to keep their guys in a fair system fundamentally. But And the thing, if you're a AAA ball and you trade a prospect, you at least get something back for him.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, it might stink that you trade a guy who is you've developed him, he's coming through every level, but he's not ready for the major leagues yet. You're about ready to make a World Series run, and you trade for that pitcher who's going to get you over the hump. And then the next year, that guy's Rookie of the Year. Well, that sucks, but you won a World Series.
Yeah.
That's not the case for North Texas. North Texas sends a guy up, a guy leaves and goes up, and they just have to sit there and hope that maybe Oregon sends somebody back in the future, but there's not of Oregon's choosing at all.
When we get the coach on, we will ask that question.
Yeah.
We'll ask him about, okay, how much of your roster outside of high school recruiting was players moving down from Power 5 or whatever you want to call it compared to moving up from another division.
Yeah. Number 2. This is an offensive lineman. I typoed it when I was cutting and pasting. I'm sorry. Offensive lineman Troy Everett from App State. He is, the minute he entered the portal, people were all over him. I don't know if he's down to a couple yet, but he is certainly someone who has garnered offers from everywhere. An offensive lineman in the portal, I could have just done this with top 5, like people in the portal are mostly offensive linemen because that's what people are going after. They're going after depth. You see people, schools that like they don't stop at like 6 or 7. They want 8 guys, especially the ones with some NIL money, that they'll go ahead and pay you to be a backup because they want depth along the offensive line because you win national championships up front. That's where you win them.
You would have been au fait. You would not have had to acknowledge your mistake if you just would have called him Troy Everett.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, he is an offensive lineman and a good one from App State.
Yeah, he's a pile. Imagine that Oklahoma offered. It's like, let's play a game. Has Oklahoma offered this transfer? Odds are yes, as they continue the turnover under Brent Venables. But yeah, OU, Missouri, Illinois, they've all come in the last few days. Cincinnati and Colorado. That's another. Has Colorado offered a transfer? Probably, most likely. But yeah, I mean, good for Troy Everett, and he's got a lot of offers. That's got to be a fun experience to have gone through this already. That's part of also I know what concerns people is like just the people that get joy out of just the process of the re-recruitment and not the work that's still to come. But for those guys who are also going to put in the work, which I assume all these guys will, what a unique experience to have seen a recruitment that ended in App State, which is great. You won a lot of games, but little did you know that here 3-4 years later you're going to be talking to OU, Colorado, all these other schools. That's pretty cool.
I think that's also a reason if you get overlooked coming out of high school, and many do, don't give up your dream of being able to play at a Division I program. You might have to go a different route, but that's also an opportunity. Go play well wherever you are, and somebody will see you and perhaps get that opportunity at a Power 5 or Group of 5 school.
Well, and look, this one right here, offensive lineman Emmanuel Pregnon from, and I hope I said that right, from Wyoming. This guy, everybody wants him. And he is, I'm trying to compare it last year. Who was the guy everybody wanted? But anyway, kind of the same thing. Coming up from Wyoming. Again, super bummer for Wyoming and their quarterback, who won't have the best offensive lineman he has, keeping people off of him. But this is someone who's he's going to make some bank at NIL, and he's going to go to a premier team, that's for sure, because if you want an offensive lineman, if you have a starting spot for him, you've probably offered him.
Maybe if you don't have a starting spot, he could force his way in.
Yeah.
That good?
Yeah, he's quite good.
Be nice if Craig Bull, former Nebraska assistant coach, sent him the link, and we'd appreciate that.
Yeah, I saw where Chris Hummer from, I guess it's 247, I think, said that he's the most coveted guy besides Bear Alexander. So if that puts it into perspective for you, knowing that Bear Alexander just entered the portal a couple days ago from Georgia, and that was
a 5-star recruit.
Yeah, it was obviously a big deal. So yeah, I mean, he's in that category of just the most coveted guys, and I've seen a few say it. But if you're an offensive lineman, everybody's out there has opportunities to make money and whatnot. But especially if you're an offensive lineman, you can go out there and make some really good money. He'll make some good money, and he'll land just about wherever he wants to. I know there's a lot of SEC schools have offered him. Oregon, again, in the portal, throwing offers out. A lot of schools on the West Coast. So, yeah, be interesting to see where he lands, whether, close by on the West Coast there, relatively close with Wyoming, or out in the Southeast with big bucks, I'd imagine.
All right, Paul. Very well done. Happy birthday to you, 40-something years old. Garrett, Ross, thank you, buddy. Appreciate the best thing about today is Paul walked in. Craig, you weren't here yet. Paul walked in and he goes, on my birthday, Garrett, you don't have a picture of yourself on the screen, do you?
I don't.
He's wearing a beloved Yankees, a really cool Yankees hat.
I mean no harm, Paul.
I get it, but like.
No, he meant harm.
I have to look. My straight in my eye line is 6 foot, 13-inch Garrett Ross. I mean, like if it was Armstrong, I could just see his curly hair over the computer. This, I see your whole face in that Yankees cap.
I should have worn my Gators.
At least we've got Chief Osceola and Renegade back here.
Tried to help you out.
Thank you.
You look good in that hat, by the way. You really do. Emery Winter, thank for everything you do. And then, of course, what you're doing for the sports tonight at 10:30 tonight on the CW. Paul's birthday, he's 40-something. And it was not a cake that we got, Amanda, that was anything fruity. We will not allow that to happen, and we'll send him to a nursing home. Craig, thank you very much for all of what you do. And I'm David Smoak. For our sponsors, the chat room, all of you, thank you so much. Text line brought to you by Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Good night, 365 Sports.